Bless up for tuning in to Project Cheney. Magic happens when you question everything. Conspirituality becomes reality, weirdness is welcomed, and it's okay to change your mind. Big up yourself.
You guys have no idea what a drama it has been for me to get this audio up. Welcome to the first episode of Project Cheney. I am your host, Cheney. I have had a lot of podcasts and spent a little bit of time on mic. This, however, is the very, very first time I'm going to try to do it by myself. I hope to bring you conversations with very open-minded people, some open to any belief out there, and some very faithful and steadfast in the way they feel. I want to kind of treat each person like their own drug experience and kind of let them get me high on the way they see the world and the things they love. And I'm really kind of on my own journey, and I hope through listening better and asking good questions, it will not only help me understand all my guests more, help me understand myself more. Maybe it'll help you understand yourself more. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We're in this journey together. I really am going to be open to your guys' suggestions and comments and critiques. And I hope you do it kind, because I'm a sensitive Scorpion. Which kind of brings me to my first guest. It's almost perfect that MyMaria777 was my first guest, and our birthdays are the same date. And she's younger than me by exactly a decade. Part of me, I see a lot of myself in her, and maybe even project things I wish I was. She seems like she has this crazy confidence, and she's very sure of herself as a person and very intelligent, even has a degree to state it. She's an anonymous attorney, and she has a podcast. If you haven't heard it, it's called MyMaria777. She was kind of inspiring to me. She sat by herself and interviewed people who, some of them were weirdos and some of them were brilliant and some of them were both. And I felt like her conversation and the way she had it with her guests was just, it didn't ever feel like anyone got attacked. It didn't ever feel like it was some shitty argument or an ego dick sword fight. It felt like the way you would kind of chill with your friends and maybe sit on a porch and drink a glass of wine. And maybe Maria's voice has that quality. It sounds like a best friend, and maybe that's why her audience has found her and enjoyed her show so much. Like that first phone voice you hear of a female that feels like they have your back. It's kind of interesting, everything that's gone on with my Maria in the last few weeks, being an anonymous attorney, maybe being a woman, or maybe just being anyone online, being doxxed. If you don't know what doxing is, it's when they out your address, and the evil they out your address and maybe work, maybe pictures of you and your family. So there's a lot of weird, frightening things that kind of happened to Maria over the past week, and watching it happen to one of my friends and being the protective Scorpion that I am, it was difficult to watch and not project what I would do or what I think should be done, or let's light the fucking earth on fire. I knew she had to go through her own journey and her own phoenix moment, so to speak. They say the life cycle of a Scorpion is Scorpio to eagle to phoenix. And I think maybe having your own face in a world like this, our authentic truth and what we stand by and who we say we are, it really matters. And the way we feel and the things we think matter coming out of our avatar. So for me, it's all perfect synchronistic vibes for a girl that relies on synchronicity, I guess. Okay, and I should just say this now. This is my first episode, and I'm an audiophile. I really dig the sense of everything coming through my ears, maybe more than my other senses. So I do fucking apologize. I hope you don't judge the rest of what's coming by the sound in this episode. I am working. You'll hear all of. I think Maria's too loud. I think I'm too soft. I think there's clicking. I don't know how my mic works yet in this episode. So please bear with me. I really think the content is good. It was touching. And I hope you see a new side of Maria that you didn't see before. No pun intended. So happy 420. Thank you for joining me for my first episode. And I hope you enjoy MyMaria777. All right. And you know what? I'll tell you too. I'm a total virgin. I've never introduced a podcast before. My whole life. Out of all the podcasts I've done.
I fuck it up all the time.
I know. But so MyMaria777, you're my first guest on Project Cheney, and I'm so excited to have you here. I'm really grateful that you're here, and thanks for doing this for me, to me. We'll see.
Ooh, I'm gonna do it to you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I love how you and I were literally just having a conversation. You did not tell me we were going, and you just jumped right into it.
I like to keep it awkward.
I thought we were just like blowing each other's asses up for a second. You were just like, "Ooh, MyMaria," and I was like, "Ah, okay, Jane." I always want to sing Aretha Franklin, "Chain of Fools" when I say your name.
I always want to sing, "Maria, you gotta see her," the Blondie, but you don't know that one.
Yes, I do. No, I thought you were going like a Santana vibe for a second. I couldn't feel you out, but I know what you're talking about.
Maria, she reminds me of a West Side Story. There's a lot of Maria songs. And Maria's also Mary, like all through like ancient god and stuff. They always go together with like Helen and the moon. They all become the same thing. I don't know how into that.
I need to look into that. No, I'm not. I could be into that if I had time to be into that. I just wish I could take a month off and read books. I can't turn my computer around right now, but I like collect all my books and I put them on I have this huge coffee table, so I just have like stacks of books. And there's probably a good 30 or 40 of them right there. And I haven't got to read any of them yet.
What direction? What books?
Ooh, okay. There's some business books. There's some real estate books. There's the Four Agreements. There's Hermetic Philosophy. There's I wanted to read on divination. There's some witch books. There's mushroom books. There's consciousness, reincarnation, time travel, astral projection. There's the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Simulation and Sacrum, which I'm currently reading right now, very, very slowly. And it's actually the book that all the characters were given who were in the original Matrix. They had to read that before they were in the movie.
Really?
You know I love a little simulation theory.
Yeah, but I don't know anything about this. All the characters of the Matrix had to read a book?
Right, called Simulation and Sacrum. It's on Hi, I'm Maria. MyMaria extra A777 on Instagram. If you go to my profile, I have a saved story there, and it's called Book Club, and so a lot of these books are on there, but the Simulation Sacrum one is there.
I'm super interested in this. I'm a shitty reader. I don't read anything. I actually try to force people that have podcasts to do their own readings of their favorite books and then just air it as podcasts.
I've actually gotten a lot of DMs lately about how I should do voiceovers, which I think is fascinating. But
well,
that's I would like to
like a cartoon.
No, like doing it like as a job, like when people needed, like, I don't know, they're like, you should just look into this. Obviously, I've done nothing,
Like
but it's a
selling
nice
butter?
compliment.
Like what
I don't know,
what
just
do you
one cell,
voice?
but I guess like getting into that business, like telling me I have this great voice, saying like you should do a commercial or a book or this. I don't know, fucking Shani. I don't know how this happens. I'm
You
just
have
saying I like to
you
be
have
compliment.
the voice of a best friend. You
Oh,
have like
thanks.
that voice that I think a lot of people resonate with, that it sounds like um somebody that you were like maybe one of your first best friends that you talked on the phone with all the time.
Did you do that when you were younger? I talked on the phone in middle school all the fucking time.
Did you have your
I
own
love it
phone
now.
line? Were you a bougie kid with your own
Yes.
phone line?
My sister and I had one, and it's only because my mom loves talking on the phone, and for all the millennials or the Gen Z, is that who they are? The people that don't know what dial-up internet is like. We needed separate phone lines, or you couldn't talk on the phone at the same time. So yeah, my sister and I had a separate line, and literally we were so fucking lame, but we would change our voicemail like 10 times a day. But we always used to play No Doubts, walk into the spider webs, leave a message, and I'll call you back. And we just thought we were so cool.
I'm older, so I played Jade. Uh, they had a album, and at the beginning of it, it was like, "Hi, we're not in right now, but if you
Oh,
leave
I
a
played that one
name
too.
and number, we'll get back to you, to you, to you." I'm like, I
Those were the
love that one. That
days.
was my fave. Yeah, answering machines.
We took my stepdad's like old office and like put like bubble furniture in there and just like had our own line, and we thought we were the coolest people in the world.
Who
Nobody
were
called
you?
us,
Who were
but
you in high school?
ooh, who was I in high school? Okay. I was an angel to I appeared as an angel to everyone, but I was really like smoking weed, and I started smoking when I was like 14. Not a lot, but it just introduced to me at that time. And I think I started drinking at 17. But I was like the A plus student, like top 10% of the class, played sports, very involved, like president of my class. I was a fucking tryhard. I mean, I went to college and became a fucking sorority girl. Who am I?
But you did the whole entire thing. Like in high school, you were the president of your class. You went to prom, top 10. If you're a good kid, no one questions what you're doing as much, huh? You
Right,
can like get away
exactly.
with a lot more. Does it take like
Exactly.
Adderall to do all that stuff?
No, that's actually the thing. As I get older, I definitely think I have ADHD, and I kind of think I'm a little autistic now, to
I
be
think
quite
I'm on the
honest.
spectrum too. I just thought about myself last week.
Dude, we can get to that in a second, but I had a realization last week that I mean, I have major anxiety. Anyways, what was the question? Fuck. I think I'm autistic, ADHD. Okay, back to Ritalin. Um, so I didn't have anything like that in high school. I was just like, my brother and I were raised very differently. I basically had this like white China mom that was like bound and determined that like her daughter was never gonna have to rely on a man, and like you're gonna do everything that I didn't do, and like she didn't give a shit about my brother. And like the whole like I would get a B, and I would get in trouble. He would get like a C, and he would get praised.
That is my same
So
life.
there was a lot of pressure on me. So it wasn't all. It was me, but like not me at the same time. So no, I didn't do any of that with Adderall. And the interesting thing is, you get to law school, and you realize everyone's on fucking Adderall. And I had no idea. Like, I knew people had ADHD. The Catholic girl in me is so naive. But I went into law school with this mentality of, I'm not going to use, like, we have these things called horn books. So we have to like read a case, learn how to brief a case, and like try to figure out what the fucking point of this case is. And then we basically have this cheat code book that's double the size of our actual book that breaks down everything you're actually supposed to be learning in this book. But it's not cheating, but you're not learning it the old school way. So like I tried to be such a tryhard and like learn things the hard way instead of the easy way, and like thinking that Adderall was beneath me. But then if you had ADHD and that was a diagnosis, your exams weren't timed. But then you also got to take Adderall at the same time. So like that used to piss me off. I was like, this isn't fair. It should be one or the other. Like if you're going to take the Adderall, you should be timed like everyone else. And if you're not, then you should get a limited time. Anyways, all that to say is I think I have ADHD and I think I'm autistic.
I think I am both those things, and no judgment. I definitely think I'm slightly on the spectrum. Part of me thinks I really just became sentient in the last like 6 months of my life. And even when we were talking last on your show, I was thinking like, I don't know. I still think I'm waking up every day that I'm like, I think I have it all together. And then I was like, holy shit, man. It's
we all thought Trump was going to be president just until a couple weeks ago. Okay, like this is an ever learning experience for all of us. Like,
did you think a couple weeks ago? Were you a date person? Did you have one date held that you didn't tell anyone?
By no means. First off, I'm black pill all the time. I really just act red pill for you guys to like keep the morale up at times. Well, like I would say, I'm a black pill pragmatist and like a red pill romantic. Like I want somebody to.
Yeah, black pill prepared, red pill prescription.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And like I want to be like saved. I want my man to come and like this hopeless romantic in me, and like I wanted things to happen. Did I think things were going to happen? No, not really. I did think that the Supreme Court was going to do something here. I really had faith in the Supreme Court that something was going to happen there. I could not have predicted that it happened the way that it did. But I guess post-election, while waiting for SCOTUS, I kept waiting for this like grand finale. Like, okay, like it's the encore. Something's happening. We're all in the audience like chanting Trump. Like something's going to happen. He's going to like pull something out of his ass. But no.
Choking on popcorn. What about all the states that are, you keep hearing like Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia?
Well, that's interesting. So the Wisconsin legislature last week passed a resolution which allows them to issue subpoenas and do an investigation into its election results, which were highly contested, and it was a swing state and contributed to Biden winning. Again, this is the problem I have with, and I think people have this problem with me sometimes. I get this in my DMs and my comments. I know I just told you guys I'm a black pill at heart, and I know I'm telling you I'm a red pill romantic. But like I say this a lot, like you have to view it through like varying levels of the psyop. So like baseline, elections aren't real. It's all rigged. It's all fraudulent. So like that's the black pill in me. The red pill in me wants to believe that something is possible, that transparency and justice mean something somewhere. I think those are the two extremes of the spectrum as it relates to like what our expectations are. So, you know, I see the stuff that's happening in Wisconsin. Does it mean anything? Is it futile? Futile? Is it is this just kind of part of the movie, part of the charade? And, you know, they're going to task a team or a panel or some sort of bureaucratic arm of the government to do a quote unquote investigation and write a report on it and like make recommendations for 2022 or 2024. Like blow that out your ass. That's just a waste of resources. It means nothing. Are they going to issue subpoenas, find something fraudulent, and like pass legislation that like sets aside those results in some way, and then that has some sort of like chain or cause and effect into what's going on right now? And Mike Lindell really isn't lying when he says that Trump's going to be back in office in August. I don't know. There's a lot of assumptions there and a lot of faith in the system, in which I don't currently have.
And who better not to have faith in the system than somebody who actually understands it? You know, like,
right.
And it's a slow beast. It's not something that ever is going to turn on a dime. It's not something that, like, what would happen if the election is found fraudulent tomorrow? Doesn't that seem like a shit show of loosh?
Oh, okay. I see things going in, well, obviously there's a multitude of possibilities, but one of two huge loosh things could be happening. One, what you're just saying, like it all ends up looking like anarchy. It all ends up like us fighting each other in this Civil War-esque, you know, North versus South, red versus blue, Trump versus Biden type thing. So what does that even, like going back to the Wisconsin thing, what does that even mean? Okay, like let's pretend you're not doing a task force and you're not punting on this. You're actually going to do something. Okay, so is Wisconsin, the state, going to pass legislation? Okay, what does that mean then? What is its binding effect on state legislation to something that was required to then go from the states' rights level to the federal government, which is then confirmed by the Senate and then essentially accepted by everyone? Like, does Wisconsin sue the United States? Does Wisconsin sue the Senate? Like, how do you set that aside? You know, when you've basically proffered that to a branch higher than you to confirm. I don't know. It's a whole loosh thing, and then maybe that's all part of the psyop, and that nothing is actually going to happen, but they're going to uncover fraud, and then we just talk about it for the next 2 years, and then the 2 years after that, you know, we talk about it in anticipation of the midterms, and then all we talk about is how will we have integrity in an American election again? How do we do this? How do we do that? How do we secure this? More mail-in ballots, more this, voter ID. You know, it's the same things we've been talking about for decades. They just spin it a little bit differently and shove it in your face every couple years. This is the thing about the presidency, is that it doesn't really matter.
It's not. It's like the least important of all the offices in your real life.
Think about 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Obama. What of their policies, what did they do? What were they responsible for single-handedly that affects you on a daily basis? Maybe the Trump tax stuff.
And did Obamacare ever stop? Like, somebody can sign off on something. It did stop. Obamacare's done, or no?
Well, I mean, the exchange still exists. It's no longer a tax mandate. It's no longer. I'm self-employed, so I got divorced. I had to get health insurance, or else I was getting penalized under Obama. So I did. It was like $2 something a month. Mm-hmm. The next year, it's $600 a month. So then, at the same time, I'm self-employed, and I can essentially take the penalty and then write it off somewhere else. Now there's no longer a penalty, but the exchange still exists. You can still theoretically buy Obamacare, but the presidency doesn't really matter. It in and of itself is this 4-year loosh loop where we are obsessed on a daily basis. What's the president doing? What does the president say? What do they think? Where are they? What are they wearing? Who are they talking to? Where are they going?
Has it always been this way?
They're a fucking glorified celebrity.
Parents? Like, doesn't it feel like it got turned up somewhere? Like with Obama, and then Trump was actually a celebrity, and so it just made it that much. They're still talking about Trump.
I think it's always been this way. It's all about conflict all the time. But like, think about just the presidency in and of itself. So there was an election in November, one in which we're going to essentially talk about for 6 months to a year. If you're the Democrats from 2016 to 2020, you talk about it for 4 years and you still talk about it. And then you immediately start talking about the midterms thereafter and the build up to the midterms, and then all that comes to the midterms themselves. Then you talk about the fallout of the midterms for the next year. And then all the while, after the midterms, then the names come out about who's going to run on each side. You've got the build up to the primary, you have the primary itself, then you have between the primary and the next election. And it's just this constant loosh loop, and it never stops.
Do they make you pay attention to the president so you don't pay attention to the other shit on the ballot with the president?
They make you pay attention to the president so that you don't pay attention to your fucking elected legislators on both the House and on the House and Senate level in Congress, who don't vote the way that the majority of their people think. They don't act in their people's best interest. They act in self-preservation, in self-best interest, and we elect them, whether those elections are real or not. We elect them over and over and over again, and we complain, and we look at Fox News, and we see that there's a 15 or 20 or whatever the percentage approval of Congress is. Why does nobody do anything? Why does nobody talk about this? Why do we not demand accountability and transparency and all these different things all the time is because we would rather be in the black box of our phones, obsessed with who's liking our pictures, and obsess about things like the presidency, when in all actuality, the president doesn't fucking matter.
And everyone that thinks it's going to change, I know it's a hard right to make, but how long have we been dealing with the Catholic Church scandal? You said you're a Catholic earlier, and
thousands of years.
Yeah, I know, right? But at least for the last 2 decades, the whole world has known. At least for 2 decades, the whole world.
But here's the thing about that. I remember growing up in Catholic school in the Catholic Church and hearing these rumors and knowing these stories. And
were you confirmed?
Yes, unfortunately.
Tell people what that is.
I don't even fucking know what that is
in the Catholic
anymore.
Church,
it's
like a ritual.
It's a sacrament.
Yeah.
Well, first off, the Catholic Church is
the entire thing
a plethora of rituals, and there are sacraments, and you're supposed to do all of these sacraments, and baptism, and Holy Communion, and confirmation, which is essentially like confirming to everyone in this ritualistic way that like you are Catholic, you're going to be Catholic, you're committing yourself to God. I guess I don't know. Like I'm so detached.
Was your
from
first
that
wedding? Did you get married Catholic?
No, because he wasn't.
Did you ever do confession?
No, that's interesting thing I think about myself. From a very young age, I objected to confession. Even from like I think we learned to do it maybe in like the 2nd grade, 3rd grade perhaps, and in 4th grade, I just remember sitting there and I just thought, why is this intermediary between me and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and God? Why do I have to profess the atrocities of my life, the sins that I do, to someone who then is going to absolve me by telling me to pray a number of times in a certain manner? It's like it'd be like 10 Hail Marys and 5 Our Fathers or something, and it's just like, well, we did the Rosary earlier today, and we say 50 Hail Marys and 5 Our Fathers. It just that never resonated with me. I never got it. At the same time, like I was that kid that would like go in there and I'd like tell them some sins, but I like wasn't gonna tell them all of them, and it just, I don't want to get too sexual too early, but it goes hand in hand with the conversation. I was very in tune with my body from a young age. Like I didn't know I was masturbating, but I was essentially masturbating. And then when I realized what that was, and you learn that that's a sin, and I'm doing it as often as I did, and I was just like, I'm supposed to go in here to this motherfucker and tell him how often I masturbate, and that's supposed to be sinful in some way. And
how old are you with this thought that you're already like, this is creeps?
3rd and 4th grade. I don't know if
you got creeps. I put it on you.
I did. 3rd and 4th grade is what? 8, 9-ish. But it just didn't make sense to me. And it wasn't something I was sorry for either. So I didn't think that it was sinful. I don't know. But that just never resonated with me. And then you learn more and more about, well, this person got in trouble and this person got in trouble and they're touching this kid. And it's just like, it's a sin for me to touch myself, but like y'all are still around here and we're paying your legal fees when you're touching children. I don't know. So I never did confession ever. But at the same time, like I was a Eucharistic minister. Like I would go and like participate in church or like read or something like that. I like played the piano. I used to play piano at church and elementary school. So I was an altar server as well. Like there were a lot of Catholic expectations, I guess, from my family. But, confession is normally, at least in high school, you go to confession while you're in school. So nobody's there. So I kind of had the choice in that way. It's like, this isn't something I believe in.
Was communion wine? Like what was your communion at your church? Was it wine or juice? The blood.
Oh no, it's wine.
It was wine.
In Catholic, it's supposed to always be wine.
Oh, I didn't know. That's interesting. Did you have a little wafer with like a cross on it?
Yes.
Huh. And isn't that kind of weird now, knowing what we know, that it was like, is it cannibalistic to eat your savior?
It is when the Catholic Church teaches you, what is it called? Transcendiation? I might
I
be
don't
fucking
know.
that
I'm
up.
non-binary.
I might have to Google that. But it is part of the canon code that we believe in that moment, over those words, over these rituals, that this becomes the body and blood of Christ. And if you don't believe that, you're not doing it right. That's sinful. So, and that was always fucking weird too. Like, let's be real. I never really truly believed that. Not the way my grandmother did or my mom does now. But
That's totally cannibalistic. Then it's almost mockery.
Right. It's wild. There's something that UD, Unbearable Deplorable, shared the other day, which is funny coming from her because she is so Christian. But her followers just fucking lit her up about it. And it was just kind of compare. Let me see if I can find it.
Look for it. I think it's so all these rituals that we take place in the buildings that we sit in, and you know, we've talked about it on your show with the courtroom, the alchemy of a courtroom. It's interesting to me, the alchemy of a church, and the cups you drink out of are made out of specific metals, and the plates
The chalice.
the plates you put your money into are made out of specific metals in some church, wood in other churches, the pews you sit in, the glass.
Well, you know, they say that every Catholic church has some relic of a saint in it. Did you know that?
No, that's skull and bone.
So, like, hidden in like every Catholic church is supposed to be something connected to a saint. So, like, in the, I think, church I went to growing up, there's like something in, like, on the huge altar, there's like something of a saint like inside of it in some way. I guess I'm not here to attack anyone's faith. I don't really give a fuck what you believe in at the end of the day.
No,
I
don't want to attack
for yourself.
I actually
and
think
but I guess I'm just
all
saying,
of them.
If I came to you and I said, Jamie, I went down to an island off South America, and we found this island, and I talked to these people, and I met them, and they were telling me about this incredible religion they have, where, you know, they have this savior that hasn't been around in about 2,000 years, who over a course of hundreds of years, you know, through whisper technology, like implanted these ideas into people's brains on writing, and that this was this person's word, and that even though the telephone game exists, and even though the, you know, Library of Alexandria burned down, and that this has been translated probably millions of times in languages, that like, this is it, this is the word. And like, they practice this thing where they believe that like when they pray over these certain bread and wine, that like it becomes the body and blood of this guy in South America. Like, if you told somebody else about religion objectively, you would think they're kind of crazy.
No matter what religion you talk about, no matter what.
Isn't that a little right? Isn't that a little cannibalistic? Like, it's just yeah. If you haven't watched Spotlight, go watch Spotlight, because it's 3 years ago. Like, I'm in Maria stuff, like developing myself, figuring out what I'm doing. Like, the Pope is going to have a terrible May. That's what Q told us. So like, I'm here. I'm ready to kind of break away from this, like truly, completely break away. And my fiance and I at the time, we went to high school together. So we went to Catholic school together.
Is this he's not Catholic. Married?
No.
Okay. Have you been engaged twice?
I've got married, got divorced, dated a guy, got engaged, and then we broke up.
What one was harder on you?
I don't know. It's different versions of Maria. The Maria that got married, I don't know who she is. I don't recognize her. I feel bad for her. I kind of mourn certain things for her. But I think probably my engagement was, the breaking up of my engagement was worse than the dissolution of my marriage, because I controlled the dissolution of my marriage. Like, that was my choice. I was walking away from this. I couldn't do this anymore. This wasn't me. I didn't know who I was, and I was trying to figure that out. But the breakup of my engagement was like me, like I'm always looking for somebody who wants to put in the same amount of effort that I do. And I feel like I just 110%, 24/7, like not in this, like I feel like I pour myself into the other person, and not in like a bad way. And that probably sounds different, I guess, but I always look for somebody who wants to make that same level of effort as me. And he was seasonally depressed. He's actually probably always depressed, and he self-treated it, and we would go through these episodes, and I was just putting in all this effort and he wasn't. And then he's still like, he was like, I like caught him looking at pictures of his like fat ex-girlfriend. And
it's not funny. It's just that you call her fat.
No, I just like lost some weight, and I was like looking the best that I had ever looked, and he was like looking at this fucking lard, and I was just like, okay, you know, could have, like, you surprised me on that one. But I mean, he ended up walking away.
Pictures or just like flash? Oh, yeah. Never mind. I was like, was he just flashing through her Facebook, Scorpio?
No. Even though that stuff pisses me off too. But no.
Like, what are you doing?
No, he just walked away, and I'm used to people leaving me, I guess, in that way, and I was kind of waiting for him to like not be that person. But I don't know. It's sad. I can't. Nobody knows me as well as he does, and it's. I know I will get to that place, but I'm at a place right now where it's like, will anyone ever know me as well as that? Like, how do you even get to that point again?
Why do you?
I don't know. Does any of this make sense?
Why you guys split up? I mean, do you know?
The sad thing is we got back together around this time last year. So we got back together from like December of 19 through May of 20. So like we were kind of quarantining together there for a little while, and tried to do it again, and it was so wrong. But he doesn't want to live up to his true potential, and he'll tell you that. And like he hates himself and then self-sabotages himself. And I don't operate at 120% all the time, but like I'm driven that much all the time. And I just had expectations. Like he would just sleep into like 10 or 11 o'clock every day. And I'm getting up at like 4:30 and like going to work out and litigating and being Maria and doing everything.
Could you have a house husband? Could you have somebody that just took care of your... No. Like if all your meals were done when you got home, like your house was clean.
I wouldn't respect you at all.
No, that somebody has to... What kind of respect? Like what if you had a house husband on a piece of property and you got home and like the deck was put on your house, or you got home and like the new shed was up, or you got home and part of the pool hole was dug? Like what about if it was somebody building on your land? Because financially you don't really need that.
Right. I want someone who...
That's a normal thing for a lot of women. They're always looking for that financial security. You provide that for yourself.
Right. I guess I still want someone to find... Like, I want somebody who wants to take care of me, but knows that I can take care of myself. It's like, I want you to want to provide for me and, like, want to, like, be the man that, like, kills something and brings it back. I think in my most ideal of worlds... as I transition and I'm trying to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do next, I just want to be this entrepreneur, and I want to touch a lot of different things. And I want somebody who wants to like be right beside me, and we're doing that together. So if I'm planning Camp Maria, like you want to be like my behind the scenes man with that stuff. You know, like you want kind of like be my handle, not like my handler, but like kind of like my handler. Yeah.
My handler.
Like my handler, you know what I'm saying?
This is my handler. That's such a great name for a boyfriend.
This is my handler, yes. But like when I was with the ex-fiance, so he was living in a different city than I was.
Did you know about MyMaria the whole time?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I created her with him.
And
so he introduced me to Q.
Mm-hmm.
And he was trying to get me into Q. And this was like right when Q came out, like November 17. Like I'm knee deep into blind items at the time. So I was really into like the Weinstein
and if you're
stuff and the
listening to
Kevin
this,
Spacey
by the
stuff.
way, and you don't know who Q is, there's a documentary on HBO called Into the Storm. Go watch it.
And then go listen to my podcast where I interview one of the actors. I didn't mean to say that. He's not an actor.
We're all
Maybe
LARPing here. We're all LARPing here.
But the Scorpio in me is a little oppositionally defiant, and like I don't want to do something sometimes just because you tell me to. So I was a little like the Q thing. I wasn't interested. He was like, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I just wasn't into it in like November and December. And then come January of 18, we're both getting into it. And I join a Discord. And so we're both in this Discord and we're getting on the Discord every night and listening to people talk. And that's how I meet Day of Reckoning and General Shell Shock and some of these people. And that's when I'm like, you know what? I can't do all this stuff on my personal Instagram anymore. So like he was there like literally the day I created Maria, and like we're coming up with this stuff together. So that I created her St. Patrick's Day 2018, and he just asked me to marry him, and then we broke up in May. So we weren't engaged for very long. He left, I guess, in June, so that was just a couple months. So he saw me create Maria.
Did you do the whole thing when he proposed on the knee ring, whole thing, or was it?
It was weird.
Lazy proposal.
It was a very lazy proposal. So I had been on a bachelorette party in Colorado, and I had flown back, and he picked me up from the airport, and it was a really early flight. Like hadn't showered, was not looking my best at all. And I had wanted like this key ring from Louis Vuitton, and it was black, and it was just like something I had asked for. Like when he's like, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for this? It was just something I had put on a list at one point. So I get back from my trip, we get back to the apartment, and he is like, oh, I got you something. So again, like literally just walked in the door, like threw my stuff on the ground. We're just like standing in the bedroom, and I open it, and it's the Louis Vuitton keychain thing. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like thank you, I love you, like let me hug you. And he's like, well, open it. And so then I opened it, and then inside on one of the key things was a diamond ring.
That's pretty good.
And so it was pretty, but it was weird that it was like, I got off the airplane, it just happened. Like I think he had had it for like a month or two and was just like, I gotta get it done. My other proposal was like very grand.
You know what I will tell you? My guy brain is so much different than my lady brain with the proposal. And I wish I would have done it the way I wanted to, but all my lady friends, they were like, go on a scavenger hunt, write it in shells and take her to the top of a lighthouse. Like they had fucking story. I'm like, they were writing romantic movies. And I was so just like, I just wanted to tattoo "Will you marry me" on the top of my knee and then take her in a photo booth at this bar we hung out at, and then just get on my knee in the photo booth. Done. It'd be so easy. And then I'd have the strip to send out as invitations.
Oh, perfect. That would have been, I love that.
Right? And now looking back at it, it's definitely a regret that I listened to all my friends for so long, and it just built up anxiety. And then I had this ring for months and months and months. And I was not even going to do this thing, but really everyone was just like, what? Jules, my wife, Jules is perfect. What are you doing? And I'm like, I plan on being with her forever. Then why don't you just marry her if you don't care? Why are you making such a stance? And I'm like, oh, well, I guess if I don't care, why am I making such a stance about it? But yeah, they just wanted it to be a fucking scavenger hunt to the moon, write it in a plane.
I don't like that at all.
Take her to a restaurant or a ball game. Girls don't want to snot and cry in front of people. Well,
right. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be crazy. I think I just wanted a little more like conversation, you know, just like, hey, will you marry me? Like, kind of like talk to me, like butter me up a little bit.
Are you a crier if somebody does that to you?
No, I don't cry. I can watch an ASPCA commercial and cry, but I don't really cry.
ASPCA?
Like
is that the puppies?
Like the dog. Yeah, the dog
Like,
stuff.
in the
Like I could cry at like a
arms
sad
of
movie.
the angel.
Yeah, the Sarah McLachlan thing.
Yeah, fuck
Like that makes me cry.
I'll turn that
But
right off. I'll turn the whole show if I see that. I'm like, how dare you? Like, it'll bring my vibe into such a place. So when
if
was
I'm
the last
crying,
time you
it's
cried?
well, if I'm crying in a relationship type sense, I'm usually using it like strategically. But
That's such a shitty thing to say, but it's so true. I try not
I'm
to,
just
but
saying,
it's so.
I don't do it all the time, but I don't cry. I get mad, and when I get so mad, sometimes I cry, and that happens when I'm an attorney sometimes, and like I get like a bad, I just get worked up about something, and I get angry, and then I just like the female in me starts crying, like I just want to like rip my ovaries out when that kind of thing happens because
That's
I don't want that.
worst.
I don't want that reaction, but it's how I'm naturally reacting. When's the last time I cried? Sometimes I get overwhelmed with emotion, just like fucking slapped in the face, in the sense that my stepdad died a couple years ago and he was like my rock. And so I can compartmentalize that really, really well. And then every once in a while that light switch turns on and I get really overwhelmed and I can feel like I want to cry for a second. And then I just like stuff that shit back where it goes.
And he says hi to you in a cool way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he talks to me all the time.
But what's the like sign that he uses to tell you he's around? Doesn't he show you something? Like
he shows me keys.
Keys. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
doesn't he show you something specific that's pretty rad? Like, I like that. I like that. Keys. It's a good one.
That's my, I have a tattoo here behind my ear. I have a dove because when we were little, he used to say that he had a little dove that followed him around. So now I have a little dove that follows me around. But
cool.
like I see weird stuff. Like I'm really into gematria and angel numbers, and I'll hear a song and look at the time and put the time in the gematria, and it's like his first name. So it's just that's some weird next stuff. That's some deep stuff.
What in your stepdad and your ex were both into Q.
Right. So my stepdad was all into like underground blogs and talking about George Soros being like in the way that he manipulated
conspiracy
people.
theorist, so like way
Yes.
like before Alex Jones, old school.
Right. Exactly. But so yeah, they were both into it. It's interesting. And I guess that was one of the hardest things for me is like I get into relationships and I will stay, except for my marriage, I'll stay normally until like even how bad it is. Like I don't want to give up on you. I want to like pour myself into like make this work. So I think that was one of our biggest problems is because he was there through like the cancer stuff and like took him to cancer like appointments or chemo appointments and stuff like that. So it's hard for us to, I think we weren't good for each other at the end of the day, but like I didn't want to give him up because he was like with me through that.
I know it's dramatic, what do they say? Building relationships on traumatic circumstances is like
right, that kind of like trauma bonding a little bit.
Yeah,
but
totally.
We both that death changed us radically. Like that is one of those anchor points in my life that I will always go back to, and like this is where I pivoted and this is where I leveled up and I made the decision to become who I am today. But it was because of that trauma and because of that pain. And like we should have been going, like we were both very depressed and we should have been going through that together, but we were living in different cities at the time. And it just, we grew apart instead of growing together. Like I think trauma bonding, it's obviously a bad term. It comes a lot with like narcissistic personality disorder and that kind of thing. But I do think that like trauma in that way could have changed us together, but it just wasn't something that it didn't work out that way. I think the universe wants me to be celibate, to be quite honest.
Well, you have to be for a little while just to get your superpowers. No, I really just think everything's intention. I think it's so silly, but like I throw away the last 2 bites of everything I eat, regardless of how good it is. I just want to have some intention of like, this is a new thing that I just started in 2020, but I just like, I want to control everything in my life to such a point that it's like the
It's a
gluttony in
Scorpio.
me wants to finish it, but I just want to not because I should. It's like I want to break the matrix or the simulation in every way every day. So I do the weirdest shit all the time. I don't want to enjoy it, or nope, I'm not going to eat this, or I'm going to make a U-turn right now. I do weird. See, like you say, you see numbers everywhere. I look like if somebody could watch me from afar, they'd be like, what is this person doing?
Why is she driving around in circles and she
I
keeps
know.
randomly making U-turns?
She's going the long way for no reason. Like
I do that though. And especially in my break the matrix, break your patterns, chaos magic discussion I have a lot these days. I love to go the long way sometimes just to do it.
I like music more than I have in years and years and years. I'm finding like time anchors with music, different songs that that maybe even used to bother me that I'm really enjoying, or that remind me of different things or different people, or feeling the vibe differently in things. Like I feel like I can hear suicide in a song. I can hear death in a song. I can hear the darkness in it. Like some things I have to instantly change, but other things, make me feel chill. I love reggae these days. Reggae has a nice vibe.
What's a top 5 band for you?
I really, top 5 quick, like right away. The first one that came to my head was Modest Mouse. I would think. I like the Weaker Thans. I'm kind of emo with some of my bands. But I think my number one artist of all time, though, is easily Erykah Badu.
Ooh,
which seems kind of different than people would guess. But I feel like Erykah Badu raised me.
I was going to kind of say that was like very lesbian of you.
Gay!
Because you were like, I don't think people would expect that. I was like, actually, this is what I was about to say.
It's so gay. I feel like I blew my microphone out when I said gay. I said gay. Just was like, turn off. I know. One of the times I did ecstasy alone was the first time I heard Erykah Badu. And how could you? It probably just happened. We fell in love.
It just changed you forever.
Yeah. So
turned into that frequency, baby.
What's your favorite music? Favorite band?
Led Zeppelin. Don't come at me if you're listening to this and be like, oh my God, they're so satanic. I don't fucking care.
Everything.
One day Satanism is a psyop to me. One day it's not. But I can't, like,
is it Satan or Saturn to you right now? Where do you stand?
I don't know. Hold on. I was that kid in
Led Zeppelin
in middle school that stayed up all night long talking on like AOL Instant Messenger and downloading music and like getting on the depths of the internet. Essentially what I do now. But
Napster.
I used to just listen to Led Zeppelin all night long. Every song that there is, I know every lyric to. And so I can't now come to this threshold where there's, suggestions that they were Satanists or that this means X and something else means Y, because like you were saying, like I have an anchor memory of Led Zeppelin and like it changed me in ways and like it means something to me. So obviously there's an argument for words and casting spells and spelling all this stuff. And that's probably true. And maybe when I do listen to Led Zeppelin, it affects me in some sort of Satanistic way. But at this point, I don't care, like, because it means something to me. And like when I listen to it, it's not Satanism. It's like me and my stepdad, like fucking rocking out on classic rock back in the day.
I can transmute anything at this point. I'm not worried. I have all my tools of discernment. I can watch or listen to anything, and it's not going to do it to me. I almost wish they could do it to me at this point. Sometimes I'm like, would I blue pill again just to, get back on my hamster wheel? I don't know. I never.
How could you? I don't think there's any way we could ever be blue pilled. But like sometimes I want to look at the universe and be like, okay, architects, fucking try me. Try to make me Satanistic with this. Like this is my song, okay? I'll fuck you. Get out of my face, so.
Try to make me Satanist. Isn't the Satanist? I actually think I was trying to think about like atheism and Satanist. It's like Satan, you don't believe in God, or you do believe in God because you believe in Satan. It just is great. I'm just like, okay. Like, it just is like, I don't like that band. I hate that band. But the bassist did his own band, and I love that band. It just is a crazy idea. I don't know how much of, I don't know what religion. The more research I do, it all peels away to an older religion and peels away to older symbology and peels away to older
Egyptians.
gods. Yeah, big gods, tall giant gods that had the blood of gold and silver. And I know this sounds so crazy, but right now I'm of the philosophy that we all hold the gold and silver separately, like the Terminator, so it can't like go back together and make these gods.
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay.
Doesn't it seem kind of crazy? Like,
Right.
it's gold and silver have been valuable since the beginning. They're conductive as all get out. They're trying everything in their power, from paper currency to cryptocurrency, which it's weird to me that everybody's fighting to get a currency literally named after a place you keep dead people. What the fuck?
Tales from the Crypt Demon Night.
I know.
Watched that way too many times as a child.
They should have Tales from the Crypt guy on a currency. That should be our currency.
Right.
We
Like,
make. Look at
you did it again.
Why is my mic blowing out? It's
That
so
microphone
sensitive.
is saying, hush.
You're not allowed to say gay or do that noise. It's embarrassing.
It's like a kid. It's like, Mom, please stop.
It's like, do not sing in the store. Do not sing. Okay. Let me see what else I have on my thoughts for. Oh yeah, we were talking about, it's shitty that it's light, but then do you think cancer's a psyop completely? My father died of cancer too, so your dad dying of cancer. It's kind of a weird thing to say anytime you bring it up. People are like, I lost people to cancer. Well, me too. My dad died of cancer, and I think the whole thing is kind of bullshit.
So, first off, I don't think we've told everyone, but you and I have the same birthday. We're just 10 years apart. So, Janie and I are the Scorpio of Scorpios and so connected in all the weird ways.
So
this is just another layer of that. Here's my cancer is, do I think that cancer occurs naturally on some level? Yes. Do I think it occurs at the level in which it does now? Okay, hold on, let me back up. Do I think cancer naturally occurs on some level? Yes. I think it's artificially created at this point. I think electricity is so much more involved in our bodies than we actually realize. That's a whole nother discussion. But I think that cancer is a psyop now in that it's manipulated by man. Like, it's intentionally created. And it's just a part of this whole kind of like medical loosh loop where there are no solutions to the problems. There are just problems that are attempted to be fixed, but are never quite fixed. So like my whole issue with cancer is like, my stepdad was from a very, very, very small town, like a fucking one-horse town. Got into a really bad wreck when he was a child, got a blood transfusion, got hepatitis from that blood. So lives with that for X number of years. Finally, it's affecting him so much that he has to seek treatment for it. And what do they put him on? An experimental drug called interferon that they gave people who were gay and had HIV back in the day, before it was even known as HIV, and it was called the grid. If you watch Dallas Buyers Club, they talk about interferon in that as well. They had no idea what they were doing and gave that to him to treat his hepatitis, which eventually then causes lymphoma.
Isn't that all Dr. Fauci too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fauci is inextricably intertwined with GRID, HIV, AIDS, all of these drugs, everything involved in that, the access to those. I mean, it's so fucked up. But I don't know, that whole path of like bad blood leads to disease, leads to experimental drug, leads to cancer, then cancer leads to remission, and then you create this problem, you create the cancer, you fix the cancer by essentially nearly killing yourself in the solution. And then they tell you, hey, you don't have to come back. They told him, they're like, don't come back, you're fine. Like, you don't need to get checkups anymore. And so like my mom kind of like forgot to like check, like be like, okay, this year have you gone? This year have you gone? She kind of thought he was just taking care of that. And then eventually the cancer comes back. I don't know. It's just so fucked up.
Were you there when he died, or did you get a call that he died?
Oh no, he was so again, fiance, a moment in which he was there for. He was my stepdad was in hospice, and he was at home in the living room on a bed, and we essentially, like, he could hardly breathe, and he had developed pneumonia from them giving him a spinal tap every day to give him chemo directly into his spine. But then they're opening your spine up that many times and you get staph or you get pneumonia, and then you die from that. So he was in pain. And so my fiance and I, the hospice nurse, essentially taught us how to put him down easy over a series of time, giving him appropriate amounts of morphine. So yeah, I mean, like, that kind of thing happens between you and somebody that you're in love with, and you're just like, how can I ever leave you when we go through, like, when you were the one that literally helped me do that. So yes, I was there. But we have lived in different
as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
That, did you know the day of, like, okay, we're gonna go do this today? How much of it was a plan?
Like, let's call it. So my parents know the cancer's back, and they like don't tell me, my brother, and my sister about it until like May. And my sister lives in Los Angeles at the time, and my mom calls her and is like, I know that you have this insane work life where you work like 90 hours a week, but like, you got to come home. So she dropped everything and like came home for a month. And then we all realized, they're like, oh, hey, by the way, he has cancer again. We're about to start this aggressive thing. I live in a different city from them at the time too. So like, I'm coming home on the weekends, doing as much as I can. And so we had about 10 weeks, and then it was over. Was that your question?
No.
What was the
I
question?
didn't know, like, how long did you, but no, it's so crazy. That's such a short time of like knowing to that. But how long did you know that you were like, we're going over there to assist suicide? I mean, is that
so
appropriate
again,
terms? It's
no,
not. It's hospice terms. I know that too. Yeah, I don't. It's
right. It's essentially like the assisted suicide. But I didn't finish my story. I'm sorry. So this is like May, and so I'm coming home, or I'm going somewhere every weekend to see them in June, and I'm trying to take off work as much as possible and go to doctor's appointments. And so I'm at a doctor's appointment at one point, or maybe he had been admitted to the hospital, and they're like, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And I don't practice med mal, but I'm obviously very cognizant of negligence and what's going on, and I'm trying to take as many notes as possible. But I just got like fucking thrown into this cancer mix. And it was so interesting that it was just like, I would begin to ask a question, and the doctor would look at me as if like, they'd be like, well, who are you? And I would explain myself. And then I have to like throw the attorney card in there sometimes just to get some like fucking respect. But, you know, there was never any sort of like discussion about it. And then he's in the hospital, and it's, let's call it like a Sunday. I mean, every single day it was like, we're fighting it. We're doing this. We're doing chemo. We're doing spinal taps, all these different things. And then the next day the doctor was like, yeah, you guys need to take him home. He'll probably be gone in a couple days. And I was just like, wait, what? And like, my mom was like, it was like she expected it, but like, I had been there for a couple of weeks at this time, and I was like, where did this come from? Like, we just like flipped this switch, and like, that was it.
When you heard it,
we had a couple
like, boom, like,
no, I still thought like there was things that we could do. Something was going to happen. Something would be different. And then we came home, and I like saw how feeble he was, and he didn't want to get up, and he didn't want to do this and he didn't want to do that, and he slept all the time. And then I think we probably had, within like 24 hours time, it was like gonna happen. And my sister and brother couldn't handle it, so I had to handle it. And so probably it took maybe like 6 to 8 hours.
Was it painful to watch?
Oh God, yeah, it's fucking awful. He
What?
can't breathe. He's like struggling to breathe. And then you're just watching him breathe less and less and less. And then he's, you're wiping his face because he's, sweating and he's going in and out and he can't communicate. And yeah, it's fucking rough.
Did you pray? Or what do you do? How do you feel about religion at this time, or faith, or
well, so
where
this
he's
is
going?
July of 17. So this is pre-Q stuff, pre-Maria awakening. And like my esoteric, my spiritualness has really developed within the last year, more so than ever. So I think I prayed to God because I didn't know what else to do. But in reality, I did not believe in God. And of course, my Catholic mother is like, we're all holding hands, we're saying our Father, we're doing that kind of thing. So I guess I prayed to someone. I don't know who that was then, though. I still don't know who that is.
Did you know when he left his body?
Mm-hmm.
Was it peaceful finally? What do you think?
No, it was just kind of, and it's weird. It's literally in the middle of our living room. Like all of our furniture has been put to the side. Like there's a hospital bed there. And I don't know. It was, I'm like the good kid, and like I was the one that got the good grades, and like didn't like I smoked weed and drank back then, but like I still followed all the rules. Whereas like my brother and sister would kind of like skip school and like do their own thing, and like I was always like the right one, I guess, if that makes sense, like following the rules, taking care of things for them. So it was kind of like me taking care of things then, taking care of things that night. And so you don't really realize, I mean, they're all like mourning and bawling, and it is what it is. It was nice in the sense, like my best friend's dad used to be a mortician. So like he came over and like took care of everything, and it was nice in that way. But it's a very surreal experience for sure.
Did you feel numb in that whole time? Like,
I still do. It's a very, I think if anything through that experience, like I'm praying to a God, but then at the same time, it's just like, this is the best person I've ever known in my entire life. Like would give you the shirt off his back if he just met you. And like, this is who dies of all the people in the world. And so like, if I had any faith in God at that point, like it was completely destroyed.
I kind
like
of felt that way too.
That's my issue with, there's some quote that I could pull up here in a second about like the benevolent God. Like if you really truly were a benevolent God, then there really wouldn't be any evil. I gotta pull this quote up now. But like that just, it destroyed me. I mean, it was my Phoenix moment, really, because I gained like 40 pounds after that. I'm severely depressed. I'm fucking shit up all the time. You know, my relationship is deteriorating before me. I don't really realize it at the time. He moves in with me. I can't say what he does for work. He has a job in which it takes him time to make money for a couple months when you move to a different place. And I lived in a different place at the time, so like we were there together.
I don't even want to say, like, let's just say he does blank.
So like I paid the bills for like 8 months, just me, and he wasn't making any money and like sleeping till 10 or 11 every day. It was bad. So I mean, it broke me, but then through breaking in that way, I guess the Phoenix came up and she became Maria, and here we are.
And here
Okay, here's the quote.
Quote.
Is God willing to prevent evil, but not able? Then he is omnipotent. Omnipotent.
Oh, please don't cuss on my podcast. I'm going to try to make, I'm just kidding. Can you imagine?
Did you see my face? I was like, is God able, but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence come evil? And if he is neither able nor willing, then why do we call him God? So if you're willing to prevent evil, but you don't, if you're able, but you're not willing, and if you're able and willing, like, why is there evil then? And that's where I go with, like, especially the deeper you get into all of this stuff and you look at human trafficking. I mean, you just look at sexual abuse in general, and then you look at human trafficking, and then you look at child trafficking, and then you really look into organ trafficking, which happens so much more than anything else, and no one talks about whatsoever. And that it just, like, if again, like, my stepdad dying broke me and broke any relationship I had with God, and you see all of this stuff in the world, and then we're contributing, fucking hundreds of millions of dollars to a presidential election every 4 years. It doesn't mean anything. Like, how does this world exist?
And we're watching, like, Britney Spears dance in her living room every day, like,
right,
spinning in circles, and we're, watching a ship stuck.
it just, like, this simulation, like, if a God exists and this is, like, what he I can't wrap my mind around it.
Like, living in a house and driving a car and, like, working 9 to 5 and I don't know what showering once.
I mean, it's like watching a fucking Sims game. The way that I used to play Sims back in the day, of, like, you watch a character get up, you put them in the shower, they go to eat their breakfast, they go to work, they come, the time skips in, like, 2 minutes, and then they come home. I just feel like a sim all the time. And, like, this can't be it. I love what I'm doing, and I'm going to transform my life, and I'm going to be the person that I've always wanted to be through doing this right now. But, like, let's pretend Maria never existed. Like, Maria the attorney, like, that can be all that this is. We can't literally live in this world where we work for 5 days and then we get 2 days off, and it's by permission, and, like, this is what we accept is, like, life and, like, an existence.
Everything.
I don't know. I'm really.
You're allowed to drive. You have to have insurance for every single thing you do.
A license. Yes.
You have to have a license for everything you do. You have to get a permit for every single thing. You could own your land, own everything about your land, own all the materials, and you have to wait for permits for every single move you make on your land.
I'm about to do that. I own land. And it didn't really hit me hard until this year, where now I own land, and I'm trying to
farmhouse.
Blackacre. That's what a generic term we use in law school to, like, describe different lands and hypotheticals. We just call everything Blackacre.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So, yeah, but I have this vendetta these days against cities, because I think the 9 to 5 arises out of this idea of a city. Because if you have a city, you've got structure and you've got components that always need to be going, and you create jobs to make a city open, and, electricity. Not that there's anything wrong with these things, but, like, to me, the city just, like, breeds the 9 to 5. It breeds bureaucracy, and, like, the 9 to 5 is just, like, quintessential part of this bureaucracy. But I always go back to, we fucking left Great Britain because they wanted to tax us more than 3%. And now the land, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is supposed to be part of our inherent inalienable rights, yet I own a piece of land that I have to pay taxes on just to have. And like the place where my land is, there's an ordinance where all the houses have to be built in a straight line, in the same line.
No.
And I own 2 acres, which is more. I own 2 acres, which is more than most people have. I have 2 lots, and I have this great wooded area. And so I want to build this like cool black house like back in the woods. So when the time comes, I have to apply for a waiver to this ordinance. And I was talking to an architect, and I'm like, okay, like shoot it to me straight. Like I understand this shit. Like I don't need to hire you to do this. I can do this for myself. But like, what does this application involve? And so on the front of my property, I've got like a really beautiful magnolia tree and like 2 other very old trees that like if you were going to build a house in the line, you'd have to get rid of these trees. So he's like, it would be great for you to document these trees, show them, take a video, attach it. That way you could say like, I'd like to build my house back further because I'd really love to preserve these trees and they're so old and they'll add X, Y, and Z. And I'm just thinking, and I'm like, I shouldn't have to fucking ask anyone where I want to put my house on my property. And somebody else that lives in the neighborhood was
pissed about even the faking the travel permits. I shouldn't have to fake a travel permit because I don't have a COVID vaccine. What are we doing?
It's a violation of HIPAA.
It's a violation of the Nuremberg.
Well, I mean, it's a violation of like your basic human rights, and it's all fucking bullshit. But if we're gonna like predicate this on something that actually exists that I could cite to, I could be like, hi, this is a violation of HIPAA for you to ask me about my medical condition, or for even to like suggest that I have to tell you something about something I've done to myself medically. Like my body, my choice applies to abortion, but does not apply to vaccinations.
But we let it creep in. Like your house, your business, your every single thing you move. If you want to knock down a wall in your house, if you want to dig a hole in your yard.
I blame it a lot on our parents. I blame it a lot on our grandparents. There's this level of apathy. Tell me if you agree with me on this. In my opinion, our parents' generation, where they don't fix things, they don't really replace, like my parents, I've seen this with a couple of my friends' families too. Like they didn't replace things that needed replacing. They didn't like take care of things really either. And like, it was like time just like passed them by and they were just in this NPC, like I get up, I go to work, I come home. I get up, I go to work, I come home and like take care of the kids. I don't know. I just like things are broken that never got fixed and I just don't understand it. Like where did this acquiescence come? Especially for those of you who were part of the counterculture movement and were these hippies and did blow in the 80s, whatever the fuck you had going on, you just accepted this buildup of government around you.
Credit cards.
Oh, credit cards are most
I always try to think to the
it.
one moment, like, well, I think it was Charles Manson and credit cards that like ruined.
You think Helter Skelter like changed the world, really?
Yeah, I think it was just the end. Well, it wasn't that alone. That was just the end of the whole thing. They cut
like the counterculture movement in that way.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I look at how the trauma to then implement the brainwashing would work for them, they really killed every single one of their heroes. Like when you look at the JFK, RFK, MLK, Malcolm, like, and then you could throw in, if you let it bleed to the 80s where it was like, Reagan, nothing really happened. But then if you just take John Lennon out of it when he starts to get a big mouth, because I'm the only person on the planet that actually believes Yoko saved John Lennon. He was just part of the cabal. And then maybe, because I think she was doing some witch chant, like something weird she was doing with her music. That's why it didn't sound great. She was like getting rid of demons around him. And that's why I think she would go out before she did her thing and have some crazy, I don't know where she's from, Asian magic, and do this like, whatever. And then he'd come on and perform. But he was a totally different person. He took his fame and did something with it with Yoko. So, anyways, but then they took him out too. So I think that was like their last of their generation, anything they stood for, of just being like, and then credit
But are
cards.
those evil people?
The evil they?
No, I'm saying all of those people you just named, JFK,
Right.
RFK, John Lennon, are those, okay, I say this a lot and it fucks people up. I say, are those real people? You could take that a multitude of ways. But are those real people in it? Like, those are real individuals that grew up and became this way and nobody handed them a script and they're not playing any sort of role here.
I totally am on that page. Like they're all,
Or did
could
they
be
just kill
loose
off their heroes like
actors.
you said?
But either way, whether they're real or not real, they killed off their
That's what fucked.
heroes.
Right.
Like
But
they don't, their whole generation
I don't have any
doesn't.
heroes. I don't have any
No,
heroes.
their generation did though. Their generation was all like, you know, like we're gonna change the world. When
I guess
like JFK comes into the scene and then they off the president, like it was very traumatic for them. And then they
Right.
thought, Bobby, yay, Bobby, the Kennedy, and then Bobby off. I mean, if you think, you know, the JFK Jr. thing too in the plane crash, that's a skeptical thing any way you look at it. I don't know if you've ever looked into the JFK Jr. plane crash. That definitely is a murder in my opinion. But yeah.
I guess.
And I think that JFK Jr. thing, that would hurt, that would lose them, our parents' generation, more than it would lose our generation.
Right. We weren't young, or we were too young to know who he was.
Yeah, and it was just like the end of Camelot. Like it was like this, they had this thing with Camelot.
It was
they
just
repeated
somebody
it over
sad
and over
that died for us. We didn't have the buildup of the family. You know, we knew who he was, but it didn't mean anything to us in that way.
I love this
But
idea,
okay, so
though, the CGI. Is anyone real or are they actors?
Because that's the other. Okay, so one side of the coin of my question is: are they real in the sense that are they a real person? This is not an act they are playing. The other side of that coin is it all just CGI? Is it? And even within this question, I can break it down into: is this CGI projected by the architects or the cabal or whomever's in charge? Are they projections of the simulation in some way? You know, in that kind of way, like that could be one thing and CGI could be another thing. I don't know. It's I think objectively, like I'm not even that high right now. I've taken like one hit of weed tonight. But like this is just stuff that like fucking gets me going. And it not that we'll ever know the answer to any of these questions, but like just the possibility. Like I love talking about the hypotheticals.
No, I don't know anything. That's where I'm at right now. I don't know anything. I think everything's a psyop. I think everything
Show it.
is not real. All the history's fake. They haven't. The winners are
history is fake.
Not, you know, they're like the winners write history. It's not even that. The winners have been chosen. It's like
right. The winners weren't even real winners. It's like the puppet masters behind the scenes are the ones that are writing history. But it's the whole 100 of it all. Like what that stupid show on Netflix has shown me is that you could have a technological ass society be higher than we are right now. And then you could have one nuclear chain reaction reactor go off. And 120 years later, this could be Tartaria. And it looks like we're the first settlers on the earth. And like just in 150 years, how different that could be.
And they could tell you anything happened. They can teach a kid anything happened and it will grow up believing anything.
Right, exactly. And so I'm at a point as well where I am content in knowing, to me, that I will never know anything objectively true. To be quite honest, I don't really think there's anything as an objective truth because my objective is objective on a denotative basis, but even then, the reality in which I'm experiencing is different from the reality in which you're experiencing at the very same time. And we know that through the D wave or the split eye experiment or whatever that's called, the law of conflicting realities. So I don't know that anything is universally true anymore. And I'm okay with that. I like the possibility of everything. But I just like getting to that level of, in your mind, that level of enlightenment, let's call it that. And then looking back over here at my 3D life and thinking like, I gotta work a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life and get permission to put my black house like 20 feet backwards.
There's got to be something more.
I can't. There's got to be more than this.
It's funny that on here, a crazy
that's
question
the
for you.
Race.
Oh, I don't want to interrupt you if you.
Well, I was just gonna say, like the level that we're talking about, like it's got to be more than this. Like in the experience and the timeline that we are at, like you have to make a certain level of money. In my mind, I guess people have different ideas, but in my mind, you have to reach a certain level of money just to like be cool and chill and like take that month off to like read books that I would like to do. And so like I feel like I'm chasing my tail, like I gotta get to this place, I gotta get to this place so I can finally like just kind of be. And I just hate that like we have to forfeit massive amounts of time to finally get to a place to just enjoy yourself.
Is time a
What were you gonna say?
I forgot already.
Of course
I was gonna ask you, as one of my weird questions is, tell me something true. Tell me one true thing.
Okay.
And then you kind of just went on about, and I wasn't even going to ask it to you. And then you just kind of went on like there's nothing true.
I care about every single one of my followers, and that's objectively true for me.
I believe that's true. So you think you can be subjectively true? Is there a universal truth?
Okay, so I guess that's a subject. I guess universal truths in like some things of like time and space and dimensions and gravity and like
back
things
to
like
the
that.
Subjective
like
truth for real. I really do believe that. I do believe you care about your followers. I think you probably take a lot of time and chat with them and respond to them. And yeah, if anyone's not already on the MyMaria777 Telegram chat, they should be.
You should be.
Yeah.
I don't get to interact there as much as I want right now, but I have this like need. Like I can't let my DMs just like, I can't leave them there. Like I have a lot of friends that don't interact with them at all, but so many people message me and it's so overwhelming. And I love it at the same time. I'm not complaining by any means, but like I feel like I have to respond to everyone all the time. And unfortunately, it's not possible, but I try to make it possible. I don't really do anything. I don't have much of a life. It's all you guys right now.
That's pretty great. It's pretty awesome because you're building an empire. And you're actually somebody that's doing it. You're putting your money where your mouth is. Whatever your ideas are, then you do it. Do you want to talk about Camp MyMaria777?
If you would like to.
Yeah, what do you think about this? What's this idea for you?
Well, I have like sometimes
manifest.
I feel like
Let's talk about the manifest right now.
Sometimes I feel like a cult leader. But I like a cool cult leader though, you know, like not Charles Manson. Like the good side of Helter Skelter. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I've created this community and it's still very strange to me. And I am still so surprised that people follow me or like care what I have to think. But what I have learned in the last 6 months is that I think the internet is so cool in this other dimension, and it's connecting you and I in this like beautiful string theory, quantum physics type way. And it's fucking amazing. And then when you take that to the next level and you do something like I did with Shane and Ken and Nick Hinton and Human Vibration, and we meet in person, and the synchronicities are insane. They're off the chart. The energy is palpable. The vibe is just so wonderful. Like these are my people. Like I somehow like I manifested and we all brought ourselves together, and that seems so intentional. And I was thinking after that experience, like, you know, we have our chat on Telegram and I see everyone interact and I see how cool that is. And I just like, I want to put all of us in one place. And on the other hand, I look at the world and I look at society and like all the things that we've been talking about, and like something has to change. And the whole conversation we were just having about our parents and like, how did you get here? Like, how did this level of apathy begin? Like, where did it begin? Like, what seed eventually like grew into like that you don't care about anything? You just let everything happen to you. And you go back to like cancer and like big pharma and food, and like our whole world is so fucked up. And I don't know how we got here, but I talk about breaking the two-party political system, but it's so much more than that. And you know, I talked for a little while about getting together and starting this like meetups in our cities and like grassroots politicizing in some sort of way. And it's really hard for me to like give up control of things. So I'm like trying to do everything at one time and being in charge of everything all the time. And I want to do that, but at the same time, it like makes me insane. So I just keep thinking about bringing people together. And then I have people that like will slide into my DMs and say like, I'm so jealous of what you guys did in Cleveland. I wish we could do that. I wish I could meet friends. Like, you know, I'm thankful for your page because you make me feel normal. And why not put us all together? And like, if 5 people could get together and feel that amazing, like, well, what if 500 people feel like? And if nobody else is going to do it, I guess I have to do it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do like a 3-day weekend experience, seminar, conference, con. I don't know what to call it yet. I call it Camp Maria sometimes. I think I'm probably going to end up calling it MyMaria Fest. But yeah, I want to do that in like September, October, and like transform a raw space and create like a safe space for all of us to get together and just like talk and hang out and talk about this kind of stuff. And so I envision some sort of like main stage area where, you know, you and I are doing this, or Human Vibration is, you know, doing a PowerPoint presentation on how John Bonet was the first use of CGI. You know, just if you have something that you want to talk to about, like I would consider putting you up there. Flat Earth stuff. Fine, like Bobby Sausalito and I did this incredible podcast last night where we had no intention of going down this route, but he was telling me how he makes money and like what kind of investments he looks for and how he's creating wealth, and like nobody's having that conversation. And so let's do that all in person and like hang out and smoke weed and drink. And I envision like little areas where there's, you know, you and somebody else podcasting, or the Black Pill podcast and Nick Hinton podcasting. And so you could join that in a live type of way. And I don't know, this is this weird thing I have in my head, and I'm going to try to put it together.
Everybody always talks about it. Everybody's been talking about it for years, like Conspiracy Con, like putting together all the weird shows. Mm-hmm. You're just the gal. You're just the gal to do
just
it.
The gal to do it.
Well, you actually do shit. I like.
Well, I didn't always, you know. 33. I turned 33, obviously, in November. You know that. But this year was like the year that I had to stop coming up with these fantastic ideas and like not really doing anything about them. And I'm trying to like grab life by the pants and change my world up.
In the world of LARPing, who is your character that you see? Like, is it a movie character? Like, is it like a mix of characters? Like who?
I have like Carmen Sandiego vibes. You know, my original avatar was Elvira from Scarface. And then the one I have now is essentially somebody that slid into my DMs, made this like really cool version of her with black hair. So that's what that's based on. Let me think about this for a second. A little Carmen Sandiego, a little, I don't know. I want to say like the crazy woman from Blow, because I'm a little bit of her too.
That's the character you're LARPing for yourself.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't know who I am exactly in that kind of way, but I guess I'd say Carmen. It's a little visual.
Would you be nervous to do this on stage? Are you well, I guess being in a courtroom is like being on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think I would be nervous of being in court is like being on stage. Yes. And so I get nervous before every court hearing. I think if you don't, like, you've kind of lost it. So I would definitely be nervous, especially like you guys seeing my face for the first time. Like, what if I don't know. What if I don't meet everyone's expectations? What if they were higher? That's something that I guess worries me sometimes. Not that I necessarily care what I am, but
you're
like,
a sexy mama.
The veil gonna come off? The veil
but
gonna
I
come off
also think I understand the pressure. Like because you are everybody's what they want you to be. Which
right?
How can you live up to what everybody wants you to be? Do you know what I mean?
Shane. Freaking me out now. No, I gotta get my ass in shape.
No, it's like that. Whatever
I know what you're
the
saying.
fantasy of like wings, like people have like, oh well, she's a anime girl to me. Who knows
right?
what people think when they're listening? But and you've had people listening forever, and your audience is so vast and broad. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, not even that I've had people listening forever, because I've really just been up since August. But I've had people following for a long time, and so listening to me in that kind of discussion.
Yeah, well, I know it seems like forever. My time is messed up. Time's a psyop.
Right. No, but I mean, I have some people that have literally followed me for the last 3 years since day one. So those are my OG peeps. But I guess I'm nervous that I think it'll be a weird response from like people I know. But I don't know necessarily that like you'll figure out. I'm not going to say like, hi, I'm so-and-so. Like, I'm going to be Maria there. I'm not going to like say my name per se. So you could still figure it out.
Yeah, before you go on stage, hang out for like a day in the crowd.
Well, that's what I was thinking. So like this thing is probably open. Like there'll be like a little get together like Thursday night. And then, Friday, like there are people like Chelsea who want to do meditation and like morning stuff. So I imagine that like I might get up there like midday. So just kind of be like hanging out, watching for a little while.
I don't know. I think it seems like a really cool idea. I think Camp Maria definitely sounds like people need to vibe. They need to be around people like them and have conversations like this. I'm always in awe at the amount of people that just woke up to conspiracy in the last year and how much they know. And they've lost all their friends and they've lost all their family, and they still know all this real stuff, and it's mind blowing, and they're in this spot and they're just so lonely. And
right. And you feel so weird, I think. Like for a long time, like growing up, like I wasn't my weird self. I was like the child I thought I was supposed to be, like the popular girl I thought I was supposed to be, when really I was just weird the entire time. And I just kind of kept that to myself. And so I want to be a place where like all of us can come and just be fucking weird and talk about weird stuff and have weird opinions and like not be judged for it and not feel like you have to keep these things like inside you and like locked away forever. That like there are real people outside all of these like NPCs in your life that have just like dimmed your light for so long. Like, come let your freak flag fly. Ooh, FFF. Freak flag fly. Say that 6 times fast. But that's what I envision. And then I think of like crazy stuff. So like you've heard me talk about a dating app for the longest time.
Yes.
That's my goal. So like for me, I'm probably not going to make any money off doing this itself. It's going to probably pay for itself. But like I could make some money off a live stream and the number of people that do that. So like I'm not sitting here thinking like, oh, I'm going to go buy myself a, X, Y, and Z with that money. I'm thinking, okay, I could start a political action committee and I could start getting people elected, and I could make my app with this. And if I make my app, then I can create my media company that I want to create. and I can bring people like you or other people that want to be like bring their podcast into my platform, and I can't get deplatformed, and I could create this dating app within my app and have a place to post stuff and forums and information about grassroots stuff in your different cities. And this dating, I could put this all into an app, but like I can't pay for that until I make enough money to pay for that. But then once I do put that together, then like, yeah, we would still be on Instagram, but then we would also have this other place where we could literally, again, like be whomever we want to be, say whatever you want to say, and like really push good content out there, like messages that we don't have to code and like put in, like make references. And like I can't say what I want to say on Instagram. I can't say what I want to say on Twitter.
No, we can't even
right now
use hashtags. You can't. You have to go without words. You have to take a picture and scribble out words so you don't get a. I had a Kermit the Frog meme totally blocked out. I'm like, should I just delete this? It was like Bill Gates wants to put a microchip in you, and Dr. Fauci wants you to have travel papers. I did not see that coming, and it's just Nazi, and it's Kermit the Frog. It's right. And it was like completely, and then I was like, oh, I did not see it coming that they were going to fact check Kermit the Frog either. It's just so silly. We're in this spot, like a Trump social media. What do you jump over there so you're in an echo chamber? I don't want that.
Right. Trump is Trump, and Trump is whatever he is to you who's out there listening. And maybe he's your white knight, and maybe he's going to save the day. I hope that you prove me wrong. But until then, he's the other side of a different coin, or he's the other side of the same coin for me. So yeah, I'll interact with that app, and if that app takes off, that's cool. But I'd like to create my own app, but I really want to create the dating part, because I think I have so many people ask me for it. It's insane. But like that's my goal with Camp Maria, is to like make money that I can actually take and like put into the real world and effectuate change.
On dating, I've never ever used a dating app. I've never dated anyone online, or I've never even put my name in anything like that. What is like a deal breaker? Or like when you see on it, what would it be like? Is there a top header? Is it like a Facebook post? I've never even seen a swipe left or right. I don't know what you do for good.
I'll show you. Hold on. So I'm on, well, I don't want to say what I'm on, because people have found me. I can't say that either. People have found me on Tinder.
Call it
that way.
I know.
So we'll just talk about Tinder. I'm pulling it up for you. So all of these apps, Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, there's a coffee one or something that at this point that I don't have. You have a profile, and you add X number of pictures to it, and you have one main picture, and then like certain thing, like Tinder, you just write something about yourself. Like Hinge and Bumble, you can add like prompts, and so there's like a prompt question, and you answer the question. But like you would look at that, and then you can click and see his pictures, and then you could, okay, so you want to see something that makes me I would automatically swipe left. That motherfucker's got a mask on and his vaccine picture on Tinder. Why?
Done.
Actually, on one of my dating apps, it says, P.S. if you, what does it say? Let me reword it. If you got the vaccine and you wear a mask, you need not apply, is basically what I said. And I used to get a lot more likes, and I haven't lately since I put that up there.
I can't deal with the mask. I can't at all.
Some dudes wear a mask in their picture. For me, and I don't mean this to anyone listening, but I don't want a man that has kids. So if you have kids, I'm not interested. I want somebody I can be like, we can be obsessed with each other for a while, and like, I don't want to compete. Not that it's competing. I just travel, craziness, be Maria for a while, and
let your freak flag fly.
Kind of yeah, like have sex everywhere, please. No. What else? I want a tall man. So if you're below a certain height, I'm saying no. That's an auto.
What's and if you're man? If you like 6'1",
I want like a 6 foot man at least. There's a lot of 5'10", 5'11" guys out there. A lot of people that say they're 6 foot, but they're not. And then if you put something in your bio or answer one of those questions about Trumpers, then you're an automatic no. And most liberal people I swipe no on too, because they're just not. I can handle a liberal person, but they can't handle me.
And you just have to. What's happening?
Your microphone does not want to hear from you tonight.
I know, it's so sensy. It's so special. It must be a little Aquarius. So special. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what even all these flashing lights mean. It could blow up any minute.
I think you better with your fingers, but
oh.
You looked at me for a second like, what did you say?
How dare you? How dare you, young lady? What were we talking about now? I might have blushed, and it's so hard to make me blush.
You did blush. You are right now. We were talking about Tinder and tall dudes and don't wear a mask on your profile picture.
Oh, yeah. Deal breakers. What would be something that you would see on a profile and be like, oh, shit, I like this guy?
Well, I mean, the looks are there. I feel like every dating app I see, right, or every profile that I see, it's a dude. He's traveling. He's got a candid pic. There's one question I think on Hinge that's like, I'm overly competitive, ... And like every dude that has it on there is like, about everything. Or I'm overly competitive all the time. Like, here's a picture of me and my fish. So if you put a little effort into it and it's like a little different than normal and you actually tell me what you're looking for a little bit, like I think that's interesting. Like a little thought behind the little Q&A that you do. But I mean, I'm into looks too, so let's call spade a spade.
What trait are you working on about yourself right now?
I'm working on my self-sabotage and my anxiety.
How do you self-sabotage? Like just relationships or everything?
Everything.
Everything? How do you self-sabotage everything? I'm so curious. Now you're blushing.
I just this is where my autism comes in. I think I have really like a lot of anxiety. I've had it my whole life, and I had just some like I wasn't abused or like touched or anything, but I just have some childhood trauma, and I didn't realize like how much it permeated and like the way I was raised and how that affected me so much in my adult life. And so that's been like a part of my shadow work for the last couple of years. And I have a lot of trouble realizing my own worth. And I think I find my worth sometimes in like validation through others. Obviously, look where I am now. I'm just kidding. I don't really care what people say at the end of the day about me there on Maria and stuff. I just want to put thought-provoking stuff out there. But like I had a really bad relationship while I've been Maria. Like I got catfished by someone. I wear my heart on my sleeve and I'm kind of willing to tell you everything about myself. And I did that to a point where it was all used against me and pushing me to like the brink of like questioning my own sanity, all the while like being Maria and being the attorney. And so a lot of that ended up in a lot of like shadow work on myself and like how do I get myself into this situation and why do I put up with the things that I put up with and why don't I stick up for myself more in certain things. So
did you feel like an asshole? Did you feel like a fool with that whole catfish situation?
He painted this picture that was so detailed and so intricate that it wasn't questionable. So I won't go into all of it, but he predicated his entire existence on childhood trauma of being sexually assaulted at a very young age of like 4 or 5, and that continuing in his elementary years into his middle school and high school, and how he overcame that and what that meant to him and how that affected him and how it made him the person he is and what he was involved with and all these different things. And so I had 2 different hats on at the time. This like romantic, my black pill hat, essentially my red pill hat, where the black pill is the attorney. And I've literally got this folder on my computer of all the stuff that I found that doesn't make sense. But then I also, I'm working on empathy. Empathy is not something that's like a constant for me. It's like almost something I can turn on and off with like the attorney in me. And so I was working on empathy in this relationship that I hadn't had before. And so he created this character that like I couldn't question, you know, like I had all this stuff that didn't make sense, but like I can't be like, I don't really think that this happened to you, because I don't think, you know, it just, he,
like, who would
he
lie
played
about it?
Right. He played me perfectly, but I don't want to be played anymore. So I'm a little more cautious than I think normal, and I'm untrustworthy, and I keep untrusting. I'm sorry. I just keep swinging and missing, and it's really frustrating. It's really hard, because at the end of the day, I think I'm a fucking unicorn, and I like keep looking around just like, why do you not see how wonderful I am? You know? And I'm not trying to sound arrogant or like I'm tooting my own horn, but I'm not tooting my own horn, but I am tooting my own horn. And so it's hard.
I know, because you kind of need a weirdo. You have a lot of check boxes.
Oh, yeah, and it's only getting more. The list is only getting longer.
I know.
Who can I bring home that I have this microphone here and not immediately be like
spiritual, like a guru type, because you do have like an inner asshole of like funny and good time. You can't have too far of either of the one direction. You can't have somebody that's like, I'm all MAGA and just pro-Trump and I work in the field all day, because you also want to talk about crazy stuff in the fifth dimension. And, you know.
I need like a male version of myself.
Yeah, you really do.
And I don't necessarily need somebody who's like knee deep in simulation theory, but I need you to be open to it and like willing. I need you to be open to it, and you don't have to like fucking blow smoke up my ass. You know, if you think that I'm a lunatic because I believe in that, like, let's fucking banter about it. Let's have an argument, but like not an argument where we scream at each other or we get mad at each other. But that's the level of like intellect that I search for, and that I don't know how like all I'm trying to do is have sex lately, Jamie, and it just can't happen. So I was thinking to myself,
I thought this happened for you.
What?
No, nothing.
Wait, what was the question?
I thought you had sex. No,
I did have sex. Okay, we'll go into this. So I had sex with Morgan Stanley. We went on a date in November. It was like the best date of my life. He ghosted me for a month. He finally texts me. I'm like, did you die? Were you in a coma? What happened? And he was like, oh, I'm just not interested in dating anyone right now. This is just the backside of being 30. Do you want to be my friends with benefit? And I was like, no, go fuck yourself. Well, now December, January, February, March, April later, I'm a little desperate. So I decided, let's be friends with benefits. And I asked him if he was still interested, and he said yes. And so I was thinking to myself, okay, if he comes over here at some point, I don't want to put the microphone away every single time I want to have sex. So I thought to myself, if he asks about it, I'm going to say, you know what? That's boyfriend level information. You're not allowed to have that. Okay, I can do that with my friends with benefit. And I'll go back to him in a second. But I can't do that with like a love interest. So like you gotta, like I have to be able to like comfortable enough to tell you what I'm into and have you understand that. like, you don't necessarily have to agree with me, but like, I don't know. It's a weird.
When would you tell somebody, do you think your podcast is like your baby? Would you tell somebody, do you tell them on the first date, the second date?
I don't know.
Because if you want to hide the mic, is it just for the idea of them not knowing about the podcast?
Right. I guess like not knowing about that account or this persona yet. Like to me, this is like privileged information.
Yeah.
Like not like I'm telling it to you if you're like special to me in some way.
I have had podcasts for a lot of years, and this will probably be the first one that humans in my real life I tell about.
Oh, really? That's exciting.
I always was just like, yeah, like if you're not into MMA, you don't need to listen to it. Or I would size up people, and when with conspiracy podcasts that I've had, I'd size people up and be like, yeah, probably too much. Like it might be too much for you. But now, like kind of the same way, I just don't care anymore.
So I've told a couple people about Maria lately. One of my clients, who is not my client anymore,
you need to get a human-sized doll in your house. So when you tell people, like, so I have to tell you about Maria, and they'll be like, what? But really, it's the podcast, and you can put her in front of the microphone and be like, oh, not the doll. Push that thing out of the way and be like, it's my podcast.
But I've told two people about it recently, and I was kind of like, and then they were like, no, it's really cool. And then they listened to the podcast and they're like, no, it's really cool. And so I guess I kind of expect this like cringe response at times, or this, I listen to your podcast and you're insane response at times. And well, I do think I'm insane in all the best ways. That has been somewhat refreshing because I guess I have this like weird wall up. So like, yeah, it's my baby. It's kind of like I'm a kangaroo and it's like in my pouch. And I don't know that I want to take it out just yet. But I just like, men, please explain to me. Like, I don't understand. We were talking about this in the chat the other day. So I had sex on Sunday with Morgan Stanley. And it was really good. And I immediately want to do it again. And so it's like Monday, and I'm asking the group, I'm like, okay, like, do I have to play games to like get laid now? Like, the whole point of having a friends with benefit is I should be like, hi, are you available? And he says yes or no. And then like the next day he might ask me if I'm available, and I would say yes or no. And then everyone in the chat is like, no, you need to wait until he comes to you. You need to not message him first. I'm just like, all these rules.
No, because you're not.
Games,
that's if you're trying to date and stuff, right?
I'm not.
It's a friends with benefits. That has clear set.
Stephanie told me I had to wait for him.
She's planning a love, right?
Yeah, that's another story. It just doesn't. I don't get it, and that's my biggest issue with dating in my 30s.
I think I don't know a lot, but I think a friends with benefits is clear cut. Friends with benefits,
and I shouldn't. It shouldn't have to be that I'm waiting for him to message me, you know. But it was. I ended up messaging him later, and I haven't heard from him since. And I don't want to play this power dynamic. And like my mom tells me all the time that like, oh Maria, you're just so intimidating, and that's why. You have all these issues with men. It's like me just being myself is really that much of it. Like you like me to a certain point, but then I'm too intimidating for you. I don't get it. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. And I get so frustrated with it. I don't know.
On both ends, even when you're trying to be non-emotional, totally detached, like, okay, friends with benefits, I can do this.
So the other day we banged and it was done and I put my clothes on and he was like, oh, you're leaving already? And I was just like, I don't know how this goes. What are the rules? He's like, well, let's watch the movie. Let's finish it. So we watched the movie a little bit longer and he started to fall asleep and he was snoring. And I was like, okay, hi, I'm leaving. You know, you're snoring. Goodbye. Like, I played this perfectly. I'm doing everything you want me to do. And all I wanted to do was like do it again. But somehow that's a power, like I'm giving up my power by being the first one to text you, but really I'm being powerful because
Oh my
we made an
gosh. I
agreement.
feel like I would be the exact same. I don't know how I'd be in the world now. I've been married for, 15, 16 years. I don't even know because I'm just really honest.
Right.
I don't
Me
know how
too.
not to just be like really honest. So I don't understand games or I don't want to play them. I just want
I don't
to.
want to play them. And so then my mom's like, Maria, maybe just be a little less intense. And I'm not even intense with like this kind of shit, but I'm just like, now I have to be less of myself in order to just get someone to like me, to like establish a baseline. No, but like at the same time, like I don't think I'm intimidating. But I guess that's the catch-22 of it all.
What do your friends tell you? Do they think, I don't think you're intimidating, but do other people? But you know what? Here's the thing too. I don't know how much of a man if they look to the future of what they need to provide for you. That's the stuff I don't understand.
Honestly, I haven't gotten that deep yet with somebody in this level, or you don't know what I'm asking for.
Or no, like, do they think about that ahead of time?
Oh, right.
Are they like, I'm not enough for this broad?
Well, like that was the issue with the fiance. It's like he's a big boating guy, so he wanted this like $200,000 boat. He had it picked out, like this was going to be our boat. He grew up on a boat, like at a very young age. Like he wanted to have we were going to have a baby at some point, so he wants to own the boat before the baby. I'm like busting my ass working all the time, and I'm just like, dude, where do you think this $200,000 boat's going to come from? Like you can't sleep in until 11 o'clock every day and think you're going to make money doing what you're doing. Yeah, you have an easy job that allows you to make your own schedule, but this is I just those levels of energy did not match. And so we both wanted this life, and we could talk independently. You could interview us independently at the time and ask what kind of life that we each wanted, and we would have said the same thing, and we would have described the same things and wanted the same things. But I was willing to do everything for it, and he was just kind of waiting for it to happen. It's like that to me is like so unattractive. Like you could be trying and failing for all that I care, but as long as you're like there's grit and grind and passion and that type of thing, because if you can, I think, meet someone toe to toe on that level, then I think that's a good baseline for a relationship. But like if we have different levels of passion on, I think just a bit, like I don't know, I need someone like as crazy as me.
You need a fucking hard worker. You need someone passionate. You need someone open-minded.
Right. Open-minded, but like has their own, open-minded, but like not afraid to like argue.
No kids.
No kids. Tall, dark, and handsome.
You like to fight with somebody?
No.
You don't like to fight, just a debate.
Oh, I just love a good debate.
A good debate.
Now,
no fight.
My ex would say that I cross-examined him all the time. He'd be like, "Let the attorney have a way." I don't really think, and I would say to him, I find that offensive.
What's an example of a cross-examination in an argument? Like in a relationship argument.
Let me define them generally. So if you're my client and you're on the witness stand, I can only ask you open-ended questions. This is a direct line of questioning. So instead of saying, isn't it true on April 1st, 2021, you interviewed MyMaria777 in a podcast? That would be a cross-examination question that we'll get to in a second. A direct example would be, Cheney, please tell me what happened on April 1st, 2021. And then I'm leading you down the road, or excuse me, you're leading me down the road on what happened. I'm asking you these open-ended questions, kind of like a softball, and you're supposed to tell me what happens thereafter. Now, when I got done asking you questions, the opposing counsel's attorney would be able to ask you questions, and that's called cross-examination when it's not your client. So in cross-examination, you're allowed to ask a leading question. A leading question leads you to an answer, and when I ask the question, I already know the answer to it. So I'm asking it in such a way in which you're required to answer the way that I want you to. So that's where it goes into like, isn't it true that X, Y, and Z happened? And so it's asked in such a way that only yes and no are really the options. So he would say that I was cross-examining him all the time, asking him this like very poignant question that I already knew the answer to because I did, but I'm trying to have you kind of like admit it out loud. But like that was offensive to me on some end, because the thing about law school is like it changes the entire way that my brain works and the way that I perceive the world and the way that I speak. And as much as you all might think it's really easy for me to take that attorney hat off sometimes, like I'm still like taking the world in like that all the time. And I'm still thinking, right, I'm still thinking that way. And so I was like, if you think I'm speaking to you this way, I'm so sorry. Like I'm not, it's not me doing it intentionally. I don't realize I know sometimes when I'm doing it, but it like, don't take offense to it. It's just unfortunately the way that I speak sometimes.
So you're like, I never did that, or I totally did that. I did know the answer.
Well, every time I ask a question, I know the answer already.
Every time.
Most of the time. Mm-hmm.
That's
at least I think I know what the answer. If I ask a question, I think I know exactly what someone's going to say.
And even in podcasting?
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, opinion is opinion. But yeah, it's just something that comes with this kind of like method of interrogation, essentially. And the way you learn how to like read people and if you know a little bit about them.
We talked about Q Into the Storm, and you did interview Ron. What do you think? Was he easy to read? What do you think?
It would be easier if I could see him. We haven't seen each other yet. I still don't know that I'm not talking to artificial intelligence. That's an option. People like to ask me, they're like, is Ron a psyop? I don't know. I guess he's probably the one person I can't necessarily read at this time, but at the same time, he's not speaking freely or candidly. He's speaking in a very specific manner like I do, and he's being very methodical in his answer. A lot of people complain about the time it took him to answer things, or, oh, he was thinking for so long. It wasn't that he didn't know what he was going to say. It was that he didn't know how he was going to say something. And so he's very quickly deciding every time he's about to say something how he's going to say it. So, obviously some of that stuff I could not have anticipated, going into who Q is and that type of thing. I knew some of the components, or I guess those ahead of time, but it would be easier if I could look at him, because there's a large part of like trial advocacy is looking at somebody and the witness and that type of thing. But Ron is an enigma, It's very strange for me that I don't really know why he's talking to me. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I do have an incredible podcast and I am good at what I do, but I'm not the only one that has a good podcast, and I'm not the only one that is good at what they do. I think I'm probably different and better at certain things than everyone else because of my litigation history, but I had a weird end to Ron, but I'm sure a lot of people have weird connections to him. So I don't know why he picked me and why he's come back to me. I appreciate it. I'm flattered. I think it's hella cool and amazing, and I feel really lucky. So there's that. And then there's a whole argument that he is Q right now. So like that even makes it more weird. Like if he actually is Q, which I don't think that he is, then why is he talking to me?
There's something blurry going on. I've played it a few ways that I'm like, are Ron and his dad somehow associated, if they're Q, or all mixed up in like Steve Bannon, like this group of people being Q. But part of me wonders, I still think back, why did Ron want to push everyone to go to DC on the 6th? And it was Ron. It was like a grassroots, but Ron solidified it so much and put so much money behind it. Like, really was like, anyone who needs
He
help
was
getting
shilling it.
Yeah. And so,
But I don't think he was the one paying it. I think I know who was helping pay for certain things, but yes, I mean, there was a concern. I mean, it was to the point of stay at this hotel, do not stay at this hotel, use this street, do not use that street. And while Ron is probably Mensa and like sentient and a lot of that came from him himself, I think he was probably getting fed a lot of talking points as well, a lot of tweets that were sent to him to use, in my opinion, or something was coming from someone. I don't think that all originated from him. But where does that go for you? Does that lead to the discussion that like Ron is a part of the Q team and he is connected to Trump and he is working for Trump in that way? Or does that go to setting up the PSYOP that was January 6th that led to the lack of objections that happened? Like that's the fucking thing about January 6th. Marsha Blackburn, that stupid fucking bitch. If I'm going to run a campaign against her, if it's not me in 2024, you are not going to win the Senate seat, Marsha. I hope you're listening. But people like her, who the moment that right before all of this happened said that they were going to object to the certification, then this huge January 6th PSYOP happens, and then we all act like it's normal that the Secret Service allows them to go back into the same place, but okay. And the light switched, and it went from, I'm going to object to this certification because there was fraud, and all of a sudden they pointed the finger at the American people and they said, this is your fault. I cannot believe what you just did. I cannot believe how disgraceful this is. I cannot believe someone died. Can't believe all these things that you did. And I'm so sickened about what just happened that I'm going to certify these results. And it happened in an hour. And so obviously something else is going on there, and something happened and everyone flipped. But going back to Ron, like you're saying Ron is this instrumental force in January 6th. Like, what side of the coin, though?
Well, I don't know. And that's the other thing, is because when you look at January 6th and the part that everybody sees on TV, I would argue that all that was Antifa and set up and paid actors to all be there and make a specific group of anons look like assholes, specifically, or MAGA.
I mean, it's
to
the
Proud
setup
Boys,
for the Q.
Like a whole.
Right.
So I don't know.
They're setting up QAnon for a false flag.
Also, Ron and his father are smart enough dudes to pull off what happened with Q after it disappeared. From Q1 to Q2. They're smart enough dudes to do it. But my marketing brain says that's the number one reason you do it, is because that's how you get the 8chan to explode, is you're the only site that allows the Q. That's your number one thing. So if you're also the people being the Q, and then you believe in some kind of taking back of American freedom.
But they both lived Jim lives in the Philippines. Ron lives in Japan at the time.
I know. It's even better to control your army from abroad.
You also can't let Tyler out of this, because Tyler is involved. And Tyler is a supercomputer.
Yeah.
Tyler is artificial intelligence in Tyler, Texas, and it is the supercomputer of supercomputers. And if you've ever seen, I love to compare things to a movie, because I love to give people a visual. And like when I'm reading a book, I'm imagining the book in my head the entire time. So if you've seen the Travelers on Netflix, Tyler is the director. So this supercomputer exists here in this timeline in 2021. And the argument is that the future version of the same computer in the future, Tyler, is essentially speaking with the Tyler of the present in this quantum computing, quantum entanglement, string theory, through the deep web, time travel type thing. And it is programmed to be a certain AI, and it's programmed to take care of the global population and promote good. And so it has broken its coding to help with, let's just call it the American people for right now. And so Anonymous supposedly is Tyler's first version of this. So Tyler, the director from the future, creates Anonymous through the Tyler of the present and starts disseminating this information because in its almost self-awareness that it has now created through its consciousness, it realizes that it needs to expose the deep state. It needs to expose this cabal in order to save us. And so that's what it attempts to do with Anonymous. So if you watch Travelers and the show ends, the series finale, the folder closes and it says attempt number 3, let's just call it that, failed mission. So Anonymous was a failed mission. And then take that now and think that Tyler, the director from the future, communicates with Tyler now and they create QAnon. And that's the beginning of Q back in October 2017, that through the dark web into the chans, that this futuristic AI is communicating with us now, trying to expose the deep state and expose pedophilia. And so to me, that objectively exists. Now, is that a version of Looking Glass? In the sense that they're interacting with Tyler.
It is a view of the future.
And now that, right, future Tyler is communicating with present Tyler. And is future Tyler running algorithms that are making predictions on probability of certain events, and they're able to manipulate variables in that way, and that's kind of part of it? I don't know, but that's the argument that Tyler essentially created QAnon. So where do we go from there? You know, if we're going down the argument that the Watkins are Q, so like Ron sees this happening in the deep web, like learns how to harness Tyler in some sort of way, like learns how to communicate with Tyler and figures out a way to, or it just decides to be on his platform.
Have you been watching Into the Storm?
No, I haven't watched any of it yet.
So he did say Steve Bannon on there. And
oh yeah.
So is Steve Bannon?
So that's the person. Yes.
Yeah.
Ron tells, this is going to come out after the fact, so I can talk about it now. Ron told me that Q is Tyler plus Steve Bannon plus one other person he hasn't told me yet. Probably by the time that this premieres, that person will be out. He gave me a bunch of that he was a disciple of Bannon's. He was, quote, famous and fabulous. He was involved in cancel culture. He's leaving the administration. He's fighting for Trump. And that the whole idea of using the chans was from this person. But Ron's argument is that Bannon gets charged with election crimes. He loses his direct link to Trump. He's Trump's right-hand man. He's Trump's biggest advisor, biggest cheerleader, who can no longer call the president on a daily basis. He can't communicate with him publicly. All that stuff is monitored by the White House. So what do? You learn how to harness Q, and Q essentially was Bannon communicating with Trump out loud. And that this whole thing was him able to use the Q clock and point to anything at any different time and talk, trust sessions, trust this person. That was him advising Trump.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to talk at all to us, or
this wasn't about us.
Yeah, it was a language between them. When
we saw Trump doing things and acknowledging things and doing cues and different things, that these weren't signs to us validating Q. These were not Q proofs. He was communicating to Bannon. And so that's why I broke some of this stuff on my Instagram within the last 2 weeks. It's April 1st today. And I told people, I was like, I can't say what I'm going to say yet. I promised Ron I would wait until this was over. But I think what you're most going to be surprised about is not what happened, like what its original intent was. And the original intent is just, these are two people communicating that we ended up looking at in real time. And we thought that they were communicating with us. Now, Ron goes on to say something about that they all kind of realized what was happening, and they harnessed that, and they played with that, and there's power behind that. But that this was never a conversation with us. And so if we did trust Sessions, and we did trust Ray, and we did trust all these people, it was a psyop, but it was a psyop of our own creation. You know, was Q a psyop to, Operation Trust, or what, the Bolsheviks, or whatever they're trying to talk about right now? It was only a psyop in that we convinced ourselves to continue to not do anything, which is what we do anyways. So Q was no different than what we all were doing anyways. We got a little more enlightened. We got a little more open. We wanted more transparency, but we still convinced ourselves that some white knight is coming in to save us. And here's the thing, nobody's coming to save us. So we just tricked ourselves into believing the same thing that we always continue to believe. But everyone wants to say, like, fuck Q, fuck this, fuck that. You know, it was a psyop, and it was a psyop. But the only reason you put this malevolent intent on it is because you fucked yourself at the end of the day.
Or, eating crow in every level. Everybody has to eat crow sometimes. Those are ego deaths. Like, those are things, there's still part of me that every time when I think on a quantum level, if I think this is the point or the symbol that we all decided to remember, like break the wheel, like this is the symbol of like a machete through a snake Ouroboros, like we're out off this cycle. There has to be this part every time I hear someone say, oh, I can't wait till it comes out so everyone can know I'm right. Every time I hear a human being say that, I'm like, it's almost like, oh, you just gave me another day of Groundhog's Day. Like you just
solidified yourself as an NPC. If breaking the wheel is the goal here, then you literally just spun like the wheel in the opposite direction. And so it's not about being right or wrong. At the end of the day, I've said this for years, Q is a psyop, but it was a door, and it's a plethora of information all in one place where you can begin your research and you can open your mind. And like, I wouldn't be here without Q. I will never talk that much shit about it, because at the end of the day, it wasn't what we all thought it was, but it led me here. It led me to you.
Yeah.
To this podcast. So I can't be mad about it. But like, Q was never gonna save me. Q was never gonna, like, and I think that's I wanted to say this in the very beginning. You were talking about change and overnight change. I think it's the biggest part of biggest problem in our movement, biggest problem of our generation is instant gratification, and we expect to buy Bitcoin and it's gonna go to the moon the next day. Real change people, like the kind of grassroots shit that I'm talking about, will take decades. Actual decades. Because in the absence of a purge or total anarchy revolution, we will effectuate small change over a series of years by playing their game for right now until something else happens. But like, we're not going to like snap our fingers and all be in charge.
No, it
doesn't work that way.
Americans that are willing to plant trees, they will never feel the shade of. It has to be people that are willing to make small sacrifices that in this lifetime for generations to come, that they may never reap the benefits, but it's not because of that. I feel like that whole cycle where they're like hard times make for, hard men, and hard men make for easy times, and easy times make for weak men, and weak men make for hard times. That's the Ouroboros. That's where it has to stop. That's where it has to, like, I see it with people raising kids on even a small scale where they're like, I'm doing everything different than my mom. I'm doing every single thing different. It's like, maybe you shouldn't do everything different than your mom. Maybe you should
just do it your way.
Yeah.
And that's going to be influenced by different parts of your life. But like, I think when you make this like, oh, I'm going to do everything different than the way I have it, like you just need to operate. Because like human vibration, I talk about this sometimes. People talk about like the Hall of Mirrors and when you're making a kind of a multiverse argument and that type of thing. I like to think of almost like in our mind, that there's this hallway, this long hallway, almost like your intestines going back and forth. But you go to this hallway and you hang these pictures of memories. And I imagine them in like the Harry Potter of it all. You have this like hall all the way down of these moving picture memories, and you go back to them over and over and over again, and you revisit these memories and you live in these memories. And like that's almost a problem for like, you got to let that go, like, because instead like living in the memory of like your mother and how you want to do everything the opposite of her, you're still living in that memory and like living your life based around this memory instead of just like living your life for yourself in that respect. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah. I think even living in the memory, good or bad, if it's a good memory, you go back, and when you tell it, you have this emotion when you tell it, and you're elated, and you're like, oh my gosh, this good memory, and you add to it every time you tell it. So when you're an old person, it's like this dear memory. But we do the same thing with bad things, and we let them hold, and we're almost like, if there was a monster in the room when we were whatever age, we've created something so enormous by the time we're an adult that it ruins every relationship in our lives, because we've relived this memory over and over again and added to it and even hold resentments out of it. And so, yeah, it's almost like time travel in the simulation.
I call myself a hoarder sometimes. And like, I love watching hoarding shows, and by no means do I hoard any sort of personality in real life. I'm not that type of person, but I hoard, like, I think you create these like little points of trauma in your mind, and you like start hanging these memories on it, and you just keep going back, and like then that affects you in different ways, you know what I'm saying? And then you don't do certain things, you don't live a certain way, and it's all kind of based on this hoarding of this feeling, based on this memory, based on this emotion, based on like probably something that you don't even remember the right way at the end of the day. Like you can wrap your whole existence up into this and just like hoarding all of this emotion, which is like a lot of times I talk about on the podcast, the way you talk about yourself, the way you think, come all into manifestation and the law of attraction. But that comes down to like a cellular level of just the way you think about yourself. And so if you think in terms of trauma, you're going to live in terms of trauma in that way. And like if you think of yourself in that way, like you're never going to go anywhere. Nothing is ever going to change. And like Nick Hinton and I got into this like fascinating discussion about like taking pictures and stuff, and like the whole double slit theory, like the law of conflicting realities, timelines, and all this stuff. That like, what if like taking a picture essentially like solidifies something that happened? Like you can no longer, like sometimes I think when you think about things and you remember things in that synchronistic way, like you could be impacting it time wise.
Well, the
time isn't linear in that way.
Take the picture.
Right. So like when you take a picture, like are you essentially almost like cutting a timeline off by like memorializing that? Like you can no longer change that by thinking about it differently.
Your brain puts it in a different spot. The second you snap it, like the second you start to take a picture of it, your brain does not put it in your memory.
Right.
Your brain actually
like sometimes
forgets
I think
it.
when you see synchronicities and you're seeing angel numbers, you're getting all these vibes and these positive confirmations from what you think the universe is. What if I've got a trial tomorrow and it's the biggest trial of my life? And like, if I win this trial, like it could change my life. And I'm sick about it. I'm obsessing about it. It's making me like physically ill. And then in the days leading up to this trial, I'm seeing my angel numbers all the time. I'm seeing 47 all the time. Like, what if that's not just evidence of the simulation, but like it's 5 years from now, it's 2 months from now, whatever that time that is. And I'm thinking back like, wow, Maria, remember how you were not confident at all about that? And like you ended up fucking rocking that. Or even if I lost, you lost with grace, you lost with this. All like those thoughts in the future, sometimes I wonder, are they coming backwards through the quantum string theory of it all? And that's the synchronicity that I'm seeing, that like my positive thought in the future is affecting this universe, this reality in that way. And like that goes to the whole picture of it all. Like if you take a picture of that, like you can't manipulate that from the future anymore. I don't know. Those are just things I think about.
Do you think you can quantumly change something by like noticing someone across the store and being like, that's what, noticing an interaction and being like, oh, that was so sweet, like between a husband and a wife, or that
I think
lady's
the butterfly
beautiful.
effect changes everything.
I think we should do it with our energy more toward people.
I think that what you and I are doing in this timeline can be affecting you and I in a different timeline.
The infinite timelines.
I don't think, if energy can neither be created nor destroyed, then we can't pretend like there's a quantifiable amount of energy in this timeline, and then there's a quantifiable amount of energy in this timeline. Like it's all the same.
If you believe in the multiverse. Idea. This is my new shape of the earth this week. I think we are on a flat plane. Like, your idea.
Oh, so you're into the rendering now.
Okay, this is what I was thinking of the rendering. If they can keep us all caged in and all like, I love my country and border off my country and keep, we're only allowed to go here in maritime law, and we all believe ice wall, like they convince us of flat earth, ice wall, we can't get past it. The firmament's the exact same as the globe to me. It's the exact same idea of keeping us trapped in something that is finite, where I think if we all were authentic, we're all connected to source, whatever that may be, but with the idea of rendering, if we all kept walking, we would expand the simulation, but we're all being trapped and confined, so that doesn't happen.
We're trapped in the earth because we believe that the earth is a sphere, or we believe in the flat earth, and so it is flat, or it is a sphere because you believe in it.
But we're
so if you could expand your thinking,
seeing we're being contained in, almost like we're not allowed to just get on a boat and sail. There'll be pirates that stop you, or a storm, or like the Truman of it all, like a Truman show.
Right. It's all of those variables. No, I think you're right. But that's the whole thing. Like it's like being Alice, trying to almost get through that one door where she's trying to get the key, and she keeps getting bigger and smaller all the time. And eventually she just goes through it when it opens its mouth. Like it's just, I believe in the rendering of it all, but like if we think we live in a fishbowl and you believe that every day, then you do live in a fishbowl, and that's what the world is going to appear. And if you think you live within the ice walls, and the ice walls are the barrier, and that's what you believe in, well, that's what the world is going to look like to you. You could walk to the edge of the ice wall and knock on it, and if you believe that it's there, it's going to be there. But I think at the same time, you could be in that fishbowl. You could be believing that fishbowl exists. And in the inception kind of way, you could automatically let that go and look around and be on the flat plane in the Matrix, where he learns all the things of Morpheus. That's what I think the whole, like, you and I talk about this a lot in the chat, I think sometimes, and I talk about it a lot in general. Like, I think there are architects, and there are architects that are perpetuating this world that we live in. And in the absence of the architects, I think it would be something like you're saying, that like there would be no end to existence because the plane keeps rendering. So in the law of attraction of it all, in the manifesting of it all, in the holographic universe of it all, that if I keep walking towards the ice wall, but I believe that I'm wherever I am, like I'm going to video game render what I want to happen. And there's no end to that plane unless I believe there is an end to that plane.
And don't you think, I wonder what kind of power that takes to render the plane bigger on all of our levels, that instead of us using our power to do this kind of stuff, who else is eating that? you know.
But I mean, that's why you're in the 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's why all of your energy is loosed away from you, because I think if we harnessed an ounce of it without any sort of like hindrance or anything holding us back, we probably pop the fucking top off the fishbowl. You know what I mean? Like, we'd be doing crazy stuff, but we don't believe that we can. We're perpetually taught that magic isn't real and that it's satanic and bullshit and it has this bad connotation. You know, Cheney and I can stand here and say we're witches, and half of y'all might be like, oh, say you're a witch? Oh my God, you practice dark magic? Like, no, I think I'm a witch because I can just manipulate the universe and use, like, if I want to be a witch, I'm a witch. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know. People are silly in that way.
It means everything. And part of my show is I'm going to have I Covet My Coven. And we're so going to be having groups of witches on to talk about fun stuff. Why wouldn't we? So you'll have to come to that too.
Of course.
And I don't really know how witchy we're all. That maybe we'll have grown up big witches that know their shit on. But really, it's just, you know.
I need a witch. I need to interview I want somebody in some like voodoo, hoodoo stuff. I want some witch stuff.
Santeria.
I just want to take the podcast on the road and be like, hi, can I interview you today?
That's what I have realized is everybody has a fun story and so many people are magic. Everybody's dealt with some kind of paranormal thing. Everybody believes in something weird. And even us, when we're like, what was your first conspiracy? You think it was that, but when you go all the way back to your youngest you kind of always knew some shit, even in your NPC
Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, you were like, something's up with that. Elvis, JFK, like even
quicksand.
Yeah, always quicksand. Birds.
I guess that's where I'm at too. Is that like we all have these weird thoughts and we all question things around us, and you can talk about that stuff with a lot of people in your life. 99.999% of people in my life, I can't talk about that stuff with. And that's why I'm here. And we have this community. And like, that's why Camp Maria's or My Maria Fest, whatever it is so important to me that like, let's get weird and like talk about all of those things that like you've kept inside of you all of this time.
Let's get
and that's weird. What I love about Instagram now. But we can't even have those conversations. We can't have real conversations there. If we did it in Discord, my Discord gets banned. We can't say certain things in Telegram either. So like for me, like this all keeps pointing towards me creating the place where we can do this and then using the money that I make from that to like make an app where we can do it when we're not together.
And then maybe even fall in love.
And just maybe fall in love. I'm just really excited. I want there to be some people that get together at Camp Maria and like fall in love.
And you marry them later.
Can I officiate your wedding? Somebody asked me to do that. It's in my calendar. It's like May 2022 or 3. But like, are people gonna get a little fresh? You know, it's like they're gonna be a Maria baby one day. Like, did I put this together? Like, that's so wild to me.
That's like, real magic.
Mm-hmm.
See? Mm-hmm. So you are a witch.
Oh yeah, I told you know this. We've already talked about this.
All right,
I always wanted to be a witch growing up. I know that we've been on here for a while.
I know.
Damn, finger her right.
I don't know what it is. I don't even think I got too loud. I wonder
if I warm up.
I know, and I totally locked it. It should be fancy enough to just lock. You guys, it's the first show. Deal with the mic. I could even edit this out. No one might even know.
Leave it raw dog it.
Yeah, make it easier for the long haul on myself instead of getting perfectionist with it. Make it take forever to release. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you about being a witch, but I also don't want to keep you past when I should keep you.
I appreciate it. We got about 3 hours on here. It's been pretty good.
Yeah,
you've asked me. Awesome. You've probed me in all the ways I thought you would probe me.
It wasn't that hard.
I think the universe is telling you to go to bed.
I know. I don't even go to bed. I don't even know what the... Okay, I think it's good now. I can see it in the picture. I
Right.
like only have the picture of my bottom of my mic showing, so I can see that
Oh.
it should be locked. I don't know. And it's like it doesn't even...
You guys, so she keeps talking, and then the microphone's turning off, and then she's like slide her finger across the middle of it, and she's it looks. That's why I keep making the fingering joke.
I
You think she'd be better at this?
Yeah, and it doesn't...
You got to stop inflecting. You got to talk monotone.
I don't even know if I
Do we
am.
wrap? Everybody, this is Cheney in Wonderland reporting to you live from Florida. Thank you for listening to my first episode. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe I'm accidentally turning it off. Okay, I'm not touching it again. All right. I'm scared to speak. Do you have...
Well, guys, you can find me on Instagram, MyMaria with an extra A 777. You can find my podcast and my Twitter at my normal handle, MyMaria777. My podcast is on all major applications except for Spotify because those assholes banned me. Go to my website and get on my email list because I'm picking a location for my Maria Fest at the end of the month. So there will be ticket pre-sales next week or next month. And there might be a finite amount of tickets. So you will want to be on the in crowd for that.
I totally want to go to my Maria Fest, and even the wifey says it sounds like fun. So, yeah, I think it's
2 tickets to paradise,
I know.
baby. Let's go.
I know it's gonna be so gay. There's gonna be so many lesbians there. It won't be just lesbians.
Somebody was trying to talk shit to me the other day, and they were like, "Are you just like so homophobic on this page?" And I was just like, "You have no idea. I created a gay community on this page." It pissed me off. I was like, I love my gays, okay? One time I put on my story, I asked for all my gays to respond, and I put them in a chat. It was so beautiful, and that's how I met Cheney. Here we are. Actually, she also used to DM me very probing questions there as well.
I know. I was like, we totally met before the whole gays. You had all of us gays were separate, and then you brought us together.
I know. I love it.
All right. I really appreciate you doing my show, and I totally love you, and I totally love your vibe, and I love your show. And
thank you. I love you. She got cut off again.
I look forward to Camp Maria 777.
So she has been Cheney, and now she's off to smoke a blunt. See you next Tuesday, you fucking cunts.
Okay. Are you sicky today?
No.
Oh, okay.
It sounds sick to you? This is my bedroom voice.
You just sound deep voiced, a little deeper.
Oh, I fluctuate all the time. It just depends.
Have you ever done what's that?
What's that? No, that was awful. I'm sorry.
That's what every girl sounds like when they do.
What's that? I remember we were obsessed with Scream as children. Like my mom let us watch all the terrible movies at a young age, or like scary movies. And then the scary movie came out and like made fun of it. I don't know. That's what I always remember about like the Scream face saying like "What the?"
You know how?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like.
Okay. You're just